Just let it shine through. Just let your soul, baby, feeling oh so silky smooth. Just let it shine through.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number something. Skunk Manhattan here with Victor Ramos, and this is the Battle of the Hairs episode. I've got Chris Farrell on here, and as you can see, I've gone without my bird feeder hat today just to sort of flaunt the locks up against the mighty Farrell locks. Now, when we met, Chris, back in 2006?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, something like early 2006, I think. I came in for an audition of the band Quartershackle. You had your brilliantly beautiful long hair. And back then, I had a mohawk.
Yeah.
And then, so that was back in the MySpace days, and I had found out about Quartershackle, and you guys had been around for a couple of years and gone through about 70,000 guitar players. And then you found me, and I was actually going to come in for an audition, and then you guys ended up getting another guitar player, and then a few months later, you're like, hey, are you still available? It didn't work out. And then I came in for the first audition, and there were a couple of things you said. I don't know if you recall.
I think I know where this is going.
But it was pretty funny because, first of all, I came in with a little Fender. This was Rob Hinton's old place. He's now in Del Valley with Mesa Recording Studios, but he had a place off South Lamar back then, sort of a rehearsal or a storage unit. It was converted into a studio, but it was actually a pretty good sized studio considering. I mean, that must have been a big fucking facility, whatever. But so I came in there and I had this little Fender DeVille amp, which I loved. And I think that's the first thing you said. You were like, is that your amp? And I was like, yeah. And you're like, man, that's going to blow up. Those shows were funny because we'd always play with all these rock metal bands. And I always just had my Strat back then, either my Strat or my Les Paul, but that little Fender amp, and everyone else had the big stacks and everything. And then I think you were like super disappointed because even though my stage name is Skunk Manhattan, you found out I was just another guy from Texas. And I think it was pretty crushing to you being from what? You're from Staten Island, right?
Yeah, I grew up on Staten Island. I'm actually born in Texas, but I grew up.
God. So why don't you take us back? Tell us about, you were born here. You moved to Staten Island. I think you grew up in New York for the most part. And you've been playing drums, I think, most of your life, and had played in lots of bands and did that for a very long time. And then in more recent years, I know it's been something that you've been into for a long time as well, but I'd venture to say nowadays you're probably known most for forging, right? And making swords, knives, weapons, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And I'm a bladesmith now, and that's what I do full time. I make knives, but way back in the dark ages, I was originally a drummer. As my mom tells it, I started playing drums when I was 18 months old. And apparently I had lots of promise back then, and then something terrible happened, and I just became whatever it is I am now, which is kind of okay at the drums, sort of.
Well, you moved to Austin, and then you adopted Austin ways.
No. See, Austin cured me of my desire to ever play music with other musicians.
So this is you actually came here, and I guess subconsciously you were wanting to quit music, and Austin helped that happen.
Yeah. I came out here actually I came to Texas to learn how to be a knife maker, and then I started playing music just because I was in Austin, and my ex-wife at the time was like, "Why aren't you playing music?" And I'm like, and because I don't want to become the monster that I become when I play music. And she talked me into it, and I subsequently became the monster that I become when I play music. And now we're divorced.
So all of the pain and suffering that all of us other musicians went to, we can attribute that to your ex-wife.
Yes, it's all her fault. She is the one who put all of you through that.
Yeah, probably me more than any, because I played with you in 3 different bands even.
I don't know why. I mean, don't get me wrong. I personally treasure all of those chances to play music with you because you're actually like my favorite guitar player to play with. If I'm being honest, you're my favorite guitar player I've ever played with.
Very
Um,
kind.
I'm just I'm just very difficult to be in a room with because I don't like not being the boss.
Let's find out how this happened. Let's go back to the origins of the monster. So you started playing drums when you were 18 months old, and you were playing. I think you were out playing gigs and stuff when you were in high school, right? Pretty as a teenager and stuff, right?
Yeah, I started playing clubs when I was like I think 14 or 15 years old with a couple other friends who were also my age. And I was really lucky. I just kind of wound up playing with musicians that were way just super incredible musicians, even from young age, like being young and in high school, they were just amazing. And I just got to play with all these amazing musicians. And there's a lot of musicians who came from the island who are just incredible. And I just got to be around that. And I think that I benefited from being around such good musicians to at least be able to fake it and be like an okay drummer that probably sounded better than he is because he was playing with better musicians.
I mean, that's what you want ideally, is to surround yourself with those who are better, and that pushes you to be better.
I hope, I try or tried.
And I mean, this was back in the 90s, so I'm guessing there was more of a rock scene still happening. I mean, obviously there's no scene, there's nothing nowadays, and
Yeah.
and all. But one could argue that a DIY sort of localized rock and roll has been dwindling in recent years, I would say, right? It's certainly not, the model's not the same as it used to be. Go out and play a bunch of shows, build a following, get recognized, all that kind of stuff. And when you were doing it, was New York pretty happening? Was it good for rock, metal? Is that the kind of music you were primarily playing?
When I was really young, I was playing a lot of like rock, metal, hardcore, stuff like that. And like, as I got older, I started playing, like branching off and playing just about anything that I could get my hands on and sort of throwing myself in whatever situation. So like back in the old days, you'd find gigs by like going through the what is here the Austin Chronicle, but like out there was the Village Voice. And I'd go down and I'd look at all the drummer wanted ads in the Village Voice, and I'd just call every single drummer audition ad, and I'd go into the city like 2 days a week, and that's how I practiced. I would just show up at every possible type of music just to see if I could pull it off and jam with all these these players. And that was I got some weird gigs that way. I played in a traditional Peruvian band that used to busk all over Manhattan, like with the pan flutes and shit. Like they'd be in traditional dress, and then there'd be me, and people would watch us play, and they'd be like, "You guys are awesome, but what's with the white dude?" And then
And you've always had long hair too, right? For like, when did you grow your hair out? And you've never cut it, right?
No, I've had it since I was in high school. I was like 14 or 15 when I grew it out, and it's always been long ever since.
That's amazing. Actually, I actually think, and bladesmith and drummer aside, I think your hair and the fact that you've managed to not cut your hair in that amount of time is the most amazing thing about you.
I think it's the easiest thing in the world. It's just like, don't care what you look like and just leave it alone.
Yeah, but you must just have, I mean, I think you use that horse mane shampoo, which most people with super long hair have to use, but you must just have like the nicest, easiest hair. Because for me, it's like it knots up and it's a mess and it's a disaster. And that's why I had long hair for maybe 7 years or something, and finally cut it and did the mohawk and short hair forever until the last few years, because it's a pain in the ass, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I always thought that like maintaining like an actual hairstyle was more of a pain in the ass. This isn't a hairstyle. I just leave it alone, and it just kind of does its own thing, and put it in a ponytail when I don't want to die from machinery.
But you have to like comb it out and stuff a lot, right?
I mean, probably should more often than I do.
Have you ever had a big tennis ball size knot in your hair?
Usually every other day.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was just me.
No. It's part of it. Is the way.
So back to New York, when you were playing these shows, are there any names of bands that may have been around all back then that are still around, or some people you met or knew or played with back then that are still around, had success? Anything come to mind?
I mean, I don't think I never played in any bands that really made it big. I played with a lot of musicians who went on to do other stuff. But some of the bands I think are still around, and I think I played in a cover band forever that was called Hair of the Dog, and I think they still play every now and then. I don't know. I don't even know if they call themselves Hair of the Dog anymore. The singer just hit me up on Facebook the other day, and that was pretty cool because I talked to her in a long time. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of bands, none of which are probably around anymore. I was in a band called Organic Juice for a long time, and they were fun. I got to write a lot of really good songs with those guys. We spent a lot of time in a rehearsal room. We had one of those monthly rehearsal rooms, and every day we're in there writing and then gigging on the weekends. Yeah, I was in a hardcore band called Brain Cage when I was in high school. That was like really big for a minute. I was in a band called Holland Mother with Liz Buckingham from Electric Wizard, which blew my mind because like I was pretty young back then, and I just kind of ended up in that situation because I worked for SIR Studios at the time, and they had a friend who worked there and heard that they needed a drummer, so I tried out for him and started playing with this band, and we did these shows all over the village, and like after like 2 gigs, like people started recognizing me and be like, "You're the drummer in Holland Mother," and I'm like, I am. Why is this a thing? And then I realized that like Liz was pretty well known back there, and the other 2 women that were in the band were pretty well known in the scene. So it was really wild and surreal, and now she's in Electric Wizard, which is pretty wild.
So you were right on the cusp of mainstream success, and then you were like, I think I'm going to go to Austin and join this band called Quartershackle. Is that accurate?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Did you come to Austin 2002, something like that?
2003, I came down here, and and I had no intention of playing music, and I
Did you have drums when you moved here?
No, I didn't even bring drums with me because I was just going to be making knives and stuff, and I had no intention of playing music, and I went to shows and stuff like that to see music because I at that point I didn't really mind being in clubs and stuff. Now I'm just I'm at a point where it's like I got a service dog, and I don't go places where there are people if I can help it. He's got his papers that my daddy is crazy papers, and
you've got what is it called, PTSD, just from existing, just from
PTSD only from playing in bands. No,
Are you a veteran? No, I was.
No.
Oh, okay. I have a service dog. As a musician, I have a service dog. Oh, totally understand.
Yeah, no, we're not going to get into the reasons why I have PTSD. We're not.
Podcast, yeah. I think that's your Dr. Phil episode coming.
That's not a fun podcast. Why did you almost hit that man with a hammer? Well, you see.
Chris, tell us about the first man you stabbed. So speaking of stabby things, actually, how do you pronounce your current company? Your it's Bladesmith Forging Company. What do you call it?
Well, it really depends on how drunk and how Irish you are at the time. But you could call it Fearghal Blades or Fearghal Blades or Fearghal Blades. But I call it Fearghal Blades because it kind of accentuates how it's spelt, and it's easier to.
So Fearghal, though, there's the tie to your name that I didn't realize that with Farrell. Is that what it is? And it's an Irish name?
That's it's kind of like the original spelling or where my last name comes from Fearghal.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Okay. Because before that, I do think for a bit there, you had something was called literally like stabbythings.com or something like that, right?
Oh, yeah. My first website, because everyone kept telling me I needed to get like an actual website. And so I did, but I called it stabbythings.com, and everyone got mad at me because they're like, "This is not very professional." And I'm like, "Have you fucking met me?"
I think, of course. I mean, I think it's hilarious and it fits you perfectly. I mean, granted, AIM now does sound like probably a better idea ultimately for a longevity in a business. But, you were playing in a band called A Good Rogering. What the hell did you know about?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're being professional now. I mean, for fuck's sake. But actually, Stabby Things lives on. It's the channel it's my Discord channel for the business. So like when sometimes some evenings I'll go on Discord and just sit in the channel and chat with people who like knives or are for some reason friends with me, and because we don't go places to see people anymore. We talk like this, and this is our life. We're all in boxes.
About damn time. That's perfect. We got to live our young lives, so fuck it.
Yeah, I know. Fuck all these people.
People now they're whining about not being able to go out. I'm like, I did all the dumb shit. You're actually lucky. You don't have to go do dumb shit and get a DUI or something. You fucking retard. Stay home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that we got to do all our dumb shit before there were camera phones, which is a good reason why I'm not in jail.
Yeah.
There's no video evidence of my youth.
My friend Dave from Houston, he'd come to a few shows here and there over the years, and but we were joking. We had him on one of the very first podcasts we did, and we were joking about that. If there had been YouTube and stuff in high school when we had tried to start, wanted to start our first band and started playing instruments and all the dumb shit we did, we'd be like, we'd spend our entire days now just trying to figure out our passwords to get shit offline that we had put up 15, 20 years ago, whatever, 30 years ago. I don't even know how long. It was in the 90s, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Internet wasn't even a thing. Only like the military had the internet back then. And like really, really savvy porn stars that were going to change the world forever.
Uh-huh.
Right. It was just like military, and people were like, "Oh, this like international this thing where you can." Yeah, it sounds kind of boring. Oh wait, porn? You say? Oh, maybe there's something to this internet, right, Vic? Am I right?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I wasn't in the branch of the military that had the internet. We were the poor military branch.
But you found out how to get that internet when you heard about porn.
No, I didn't even know about the internet until like after I separated.
That's a sad story.
I know. We used to make fun of people on computer with computers back in the military. Yeah, we used to call them nerd boxes, and we'd like try to figure out how to turn them on, and we're like, nerd boxes. Yeah, whatever.
You do that now, and they fucking send a drone strike after you.
That's true. Yeah.
What made fun of someone years ago? Probably me and Dave again, and then some teacher or something. And we literally someone drew like a little cartoon. It said the nerds. It was like a teacher. And it was like the nerds will rule the world. And sure enough, here we are, 30 years later, and all those.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, that were like, I love computer class now. Now I'm being like, I'm gonna charge you a fee, you bastard.
I'm sitting here 45 years old trying to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, speaking of which, nerd, are you you were saying something called Discord or Discourse? I don't even know what the fuck that is.
It's a chat. It's basically like this, but it was mostly used for gaming and like for comms when you're playing like video games and you're like in a group and stuff like that. And it's kind of expanded where they also have video and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's another like, media platform to.
Similar to Twitch. Are you on Twitch?
I do have a Twitch channel. I do very little on it because I am very bad with technology. I'm pretty sure I also have a Zoom, and I never use my own Zoom, so I have no idea how to access it, because I usually get invited to, like, when I play D&D, they'll send me an invite, or like you guys sent me an invite, so I have no idea how I access Zoom on my own.
No, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, Vic sends out these invites, and I usually have to call in for help if I need it. How do I send out an invite to somebody? Aren't you on Zoom and Google Meet every day? Yeah, but all the links come my way.
I don't know how to adult. What is that?
So what about social media then? Where are people most likely to find you? So you've got a website, you're on Facebook, you've got Instagram.
Yeah.
What are you most active on?
I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. Most of my live streams will be done on Facebook. Sometimes I'll do them on Instagram. I've been trying to kind of branch out and do more of some of the other services, but as I said, I'm pretty bad at it. I usually forget to do it all together to begin with. Because I just,
somehow magically you seem to be doing pretty well. Like the company seems, I've watched it grow from ground zero. I mean, I remember your, initial apprentices and investors, and I don't know if you still work with some of the same people or not, but as you were, I remember rehearsing in your a shop way back in 2007.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Like off of Anderson or somewhere north. And there was that, and then you. I remember a couple of different places you were at, and I don't know if you're still in the same house that you've been in for a while, but you set up a pit and a shop and everything in the back, right?
Well, yeah, for a long time I was at that house, and I was at that house for basically about a decade. And after living there for like 10 years, my landlord comes to me and he's like, "Hey man, I really need you to move the shop." And I'm like, "The shop that's been here for 10 years, you just now need me to move it?" And he's like, "Yeah, and he, I'm not going to get into it because it'll be a tirade." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna go because I'm not going to rent the shop and rent this little 500 square foot house that's literally falling over for $1,100 a month. It's not worth it." Like, no, bye, Felicia. But it took me about a year after that, and I found the place that I'm at now, and it's a way better situation. It's a big shop, like like the one that you were in. It's similar like that, only it's got an apartment above it, and it's much better. Things are better.
Right. So you live right there and just go downstairs and work, basically. Is that right?
Yeah.
What are you? And you're still in Austin then?
I'm in Cedar Park, which I guess is sort of like Austin. Because I think
one of those annoying northerly suburbs. Yes.
I'm not even it's weird. I'm not even in a suburb. Like I'm on the outskirts, but I'm not far from 183. So I can get to 183 in like less than 10 minutes, and then I'm in Austin. But I'm also not in neighborhoods. It's pretty awesome.
I feel like it's maybe a little less bad now after all that construction's finally been done on some of Mopac up there and everything. And I guess 183 probably gets a bit congested there still. But I mean, oh man, there was times I drove up there to Leander that would take forever. But that place is blown up, man. Cedar Park is pretty. That's a pretty nice area. There's a lot going on up there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have basically everything I could possibly need within 5 minutes, and yet not the people. So it's pretty awesome. I don't want to tell anyone about where I live because I don't want them to come here. Yeah, you should go live in fucking Round Rock. It's great there. They've got really good donuts. Go. That's really, the rent's real cheap, I swear. Cedar Park? No, it's a shithole. Stay away. It's horrible. Don't ever go to Cedar Park. It's terrible. There are bears. It's dangerous.
I mean, some people, if you say they're bears, they're going to go.
No, not those kinds of bears. Not
the good kind. The bad kind of bears.
It's the bad kind of
non-cute ones.
They eat children. Don't come here.
Again, you're not selling this well. Like now you're saying look, there's bears. They may eat your kids. Like there's a lot of people that are like, hey, Cedar Park sounds pretty cool.
The dingo ate your baby.
So Cedar Park bears, cool. All right, okay. Hey, when's the last time you were in a band? When's the last time you played? Do you have drums anymore, or you got rid of them, or?
Well, here's a fun story. I just got my drums back from all right. So the last band I played in was a band called Thunderosa, which is still around. They're still kicking it. They've been around forever. They're great, like hard rock, rockabilly style band, and I had a lot of fun playing with them for a minute. But they were doing a lot of touring, and I just couldn't, I can't be on the road and run my business anymore because it's just I've got too much to do here. I can't be gone that long, So I was like, I can't do this. I can't be going on the road with you guys every 2-3 weeks for 2-3 weeks at a time. I can't do it. It's very bad. it became not fun because of that, like not because of the guys. You know, they're all awesome musicians. And it was a great band. It was just a lot of fun to play with them. You know, like we do shows, and the singer was a lot of fun, and it was a good gig to kind of close out my career, I guess.
Is that AJ, the singer?
Yeah, AJ. Yeah, AJ's a fun guy, man. He's a great frontman, and he's a lot of fun to be on the road with. But I couldn't do it anymore.
That was I remember seeing you playing a show with them, and when was that?
I think that was at the Dirty Dog.
Like what year? 2015, 16?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
It was probably about 2016, I'd say. And then I wasn't with them very long. I was only with them for like a few months before I just couldn't do it. I don't even think I was with them for a year. And then
It had been a while before that you had played. Had you done much because I played several shows with you when you were playing with Jeremiah Houston, kind of doing the Texas country Americana stuff, and you guys played all over Texas. And that was, I want to say that was around 2010, maybe, right?
Yeah,
I played with them for a few years, I guess.
I played with Jeremiah for like almost like 10 years. Like it was it was a really long time we played together, and we only stopped playing because he he had a kid, and he went back up to New Mexico where his family lived, and started working. He's a detective now in New Mexico.
And wasn't he prior to what we were doing? Wasn't he a cop?
Yeah, he was a police officer. I mean, that guy is a living country song. He was a cowboy. He was a Marine. Then he became a police officer, and then he taught. When we were playing with him, he was teaching at the academies sometimes. And then when he had his kid, he's like, "Well, I got to go back to work, and take care of my kid." And so he went back, became a cop again, and then I think a few years after, he was promoted to detective.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. And he does the finest Billy Bob Thornton Carl from Sling Blade impersonation you've ever heard. This is a true story. We spent, and you can attest to this, and I know you loved it. I don't think you had seen the movie, but we could sit in the car on a 6-hour drive to Lubbock and laugh about Sling Blade the entire time, and it never got old.
I reckon. Mm-hmm. That was a good time, man. That was a great weekend, actually.
Yeah, no, there was some fun times. We played up in Lubbock and Midland and all that West Texas stuff. And I forget the town that he was from, a real small town in that area. And we went and played
Seagrave.
Oh. We played a huge auditorium there.
Yeah, it was wild.
I think you were. I mean, shit. That was that was probably 2010. So you were playing with AGR then too. And there was one of those shows where I think we drove up there. Or no, I know what it was. I think we had a gig the night before in San Marcos, a good Rogering, and then something like that. And then we drove out there. I just remember being so fucking tired at that show. And it was this big theater and just passing out on one of the recliners backstage or some shit before we went on and played.
That was the gig that I think we opened up for Steven Adler.
Oh, you might be right. Yep. That was Clicks in San Antonio. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good gig.
Man, Clicks was a really cool place. It was too bad that I don't know what the details were, but that was a good place to play. And that was a fun show. And not to brag, but I do remember we played that. We opened because we kind of got a last minute invite or something.
Yeah.
And after we played, everyone was like, "Why the fuck did you guys play first? Man, these other bands suck."
Yeah, no, I remember that night. We tore shit up that night. It was good.
And then there was 3 other bands. I think there were 2 local bands, and then there was oh my God, the band that was actually touring with Steven Adler. They were these chicks. They're from LA, and they had some fucking name like Cock Pilot or some bullshit. And remember, we talked to one of the girls, and she was, I guess, the band leader and had her shit together. And they were playing as I think it was 3 girls. And they were literally the 2 of the other girls are crashed out at the hotel, and they just got hammered and didn't want to play or some crazy shit. I'm like, what the fuck? You're on tour? Like the drummer from Guns N' Roses, and you're fucking like, what?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Because you're on tour with the drummer from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the right dicks were sucked to get that gig, but man, they were horrible, and I kind of felt bad for that girl because it was like, what a terrible band. Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten about that, man. That might have been 2011, and then we went and did that, Seagraves and whatnot. But yeah, fun times, I guess.
That was a good time. I mean, I'm a fan of the lineup that you've had recently in AGR. The guys that you've been playing with, like, because I've been watching some of the videos that you guys put up, and I was like, wow, these guys are killing it. That's awesome.
No, I know. It was going so well that I fired everybody, and I was like, I've had it. I can't have my band be good. I have a reputation to maintain here. So I'm working on getting some real shit bags in the band here soon.
Oh, well, I can pretend that I remember how to play drums.
Why don't I just put a hologram? That's the thing, right? The hologram tour. Just do some green screen stuff, and I'll fit you in the next video.
I was like, so I was giving you some little history of, I was with Thunder Rosa, and then I stopped playing for a really long time. So I just picked up my drum kit from Jeremiah in New Mexico.
I was going to say, I remember that it just stayed in his trailer, and he just took it, right?
Yeah. He took it with him, and I called him one day because I was going to be recording, and I'm like, hey man, I got some recording to do. Can I come get my drums? And he's like, I'm in New Mexico. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in New Mexico? He's like, I'm having a kid. I'm like, when did all of this happen?
Do you remember what recording that was? I think I know.
It was wait. I don't think because with AGR, when I recorded with you, I had that drum set.
Yeah, it was after AGR for sure.
I'm trying to. What the hell was I going to record?
Empty Trail.
Yep, it was with Empty. It was with Empty Trail. Yeah, that's what it was. And
the really funny thing about that is that the day I met Rick, and as the first time I'd seen you, probably in a few years, and that was in 2015 out at Mesa, right? And you were doing drum tracks, and I remember going there to weird side story that I'm going to go into here that no one needs to know. I'm going to do one of those TMI moments, but like, I had just flown in from LA, and I was on like such a high, and because I'd seen Faith No More, and it was a really good experience. Flew in, my car was out there, so picked up my car, and Rob was like, "Oh, you got to come in real quick. You'll never believe who's here." And lo and behold, you're in there, like, oh, holy shit! And I remember you had you have some shirt with some pun about a muffin on it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna eat you.
Yeah, it was the muffin shirt, and just like me, you have this. You probably still have the same clothes you had in 2006 when we met.
You are not wrong.
Yeah, and I was like, "Hey, look, he's wearing that muffin shirt." Just like, holy shit! Well, now I'll go into the part of the story that has nothing to do with anything. And so then I drove. You know what? I'm not even going to tell it.
No, tell the story.
Oh, well, I will be asking you for a shit story at the end of the podcast because that's kind of become our signature thing since we want to make sure we fail. But it was kind of like that. Because I took the time and I was like, popped in there and I was like, hey, what's up? So my brother and I don't think they were married yet at the time. Like his fiance, who they're now married, was like, they had gotten tickets to the opera. I had never been to an opera. It was a Mozart opera.
Oh, cool.
And my parents had come down and they were all going to go to this opera and this big thing. And so I got my car and this and that. I was like, I gotta go. And I go back, and the girl I was with at the time, she was like, we've got to go. And I was like, I've got to go to the bathroom. And she was just like, no, we've got to go. And she's like freaking out. So I had to put a fucking suit on and go to this opera without being able to go to a bathroom after flying all day. And then like, no. And so, oh dude, it was like the worst. I mean, I really appreciated the opera, but it was like the worst, just a horrible, horrible experience where I sat through that opera, like in a tuxedo, well, not a tuxedo, but a suit, and agonizing, bloated pain. And I blame you, Chris.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad I could do that for you.
Yeah, I was like, who am I going to blame? I was like, well, Chris Farrell's a good go-to.
I mean, I fuck everything up. That's like I'm like a bad penny that gets in the works and just
that whole opera. I was just sitting there, that motherfucker, his fucking muffin shirt. Oh, god damn it!
I do what I can. It's my way of making the world a more interesting place.
So, I mean, I've never been to an opera, so can you not like get up and go to the bathroom? You had to hold it the whole time?
I have a really weird thing about public toilets. I really don't like to use them unless it's an absolute, which is funny because when you're on tour, it just fucking doesn't matter. You have to shit in nasty gas stations and all kinds of horrible things. But, and also I was wearing a suit. It's just a lot. And I think by the time the first act or whatever was over, you know what I mean? When like you're holding it in and then like, well, now I can't go. And it was like Kramer from Seinfeld, you know what I mean? And then I was just like,
you just kind of reabsorbed it back in your body.
Exactly. All the toxins.
I mean, it's a jacket, a shirt.
Wow. You know what?
Pants.
I just realized, Chris. Oh man, we're going to fucking roast your ass. You got a great, there is a classic Chris Farrell Mesa Quartershackle tracking shit story, right? You know where I'm going with this?
No, because I imagine there's many. I was not in the best frame of mind back then.
I'll refresh your memory here a little later on the podcast. Don't you worry. It's good stuff. By the way, I don't know if you know who Bull Diego Bully Los Buffaloes is. It's a band I'm playing with now, and we had him on last week, and he just put out a new single, and he works out at Mesa. So and I met him through Rob and blah blah blah. But I kept trying. He was actually doing the podcast from the studio, and I kept being like, "Where the fuck's Rob? Get him in there!" I was just like gonna throw Rob under the bus. Put him on the spot. Tell us about some of those toilets you clogged. Rob went to Dallas one time, and I got it was like a holiday, Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I got a text. He was like, "Well, I've been out of town for 2 days, and I've already clogged 3 toilets." And I'm like, "Checks out." I'm sorry. Let's get back to other topics. My fiance was down here, and she left. She's like, "There he goes again, talking about bodily functions."
It's nice to see not much has changed.
Oh, no, nothing's changed. Just have longer hair. Just more gray hair. That's the only difference.
Oh,
and a fatter gut.
Yeah. Yeah. No longer the thin man I once was.
Well, I remember in that time when you were going through, I think that it was just a bad time. When I first joined Quartershackle in early 2006, we killed it. It was a lot of fun. We wrote some real quick songs. We were doing some cool things. The back room was still open. We played the last back room show. I remember some of those initial gigs with you guys. I think having fresh blood in the band, and it was fun. We had some really cool shows, and for me, like, meeting some people here, getting in the studio. And then you ended up going through a divorce. Was that 2007 or what year was that?
Yeah, I that's when I went through my divorce, and it wasn't just the divorce. I had a lot of like family and friend tragedy. I had a lot of people die like within a 6-month period, and it crushed me.
I remember that, man. It was pretty fucked up because it would like every other week or day or just something like not upsetting, but like catastrophically. Literally, like you said. I remember, I think your brother or someone was like severely injured in a motorcycle accident. I remember a specific friend that had that.
I had a friend
go into it. Was pretty fucked up, messed up stuff. Yeah. So, to be fair to you were going through all that kind of shit. And I think the tensions just wore on all of us. I won't go into the details. We were there, we know, but just the way things kind of transpired in the following, few years in that band and the stress of the situations with the studio and recording and all of us. And the funny thing about that, it was like, I always thought like, it's too bad we weren't, famous, because we had the perfect behind the music story of just a bunch of fucking guys that couldn't even talk to each other. And it was it became kind of a mess, which was, again, I think good story for someone that if people had cared, but that was the problem.
It'd make a great movie. And I mean, I felt awful about it. I felt awful about all of it, but it was like so far beyond my control, and I was just like, I can't be a person However, I really liked a lot of the playing I did. It brought a lot of really cool stuff out of me, playing wise. I mean, personality wise, I was psychotic and probably a gigantic pain in the ass to be around. But playing wise, I did some really cool stuff that I was very proud of. That when I listened back, when we finally finished the record, and I listened back to it, I was just like, where did that come from? That's neat. Do I know how to do that?
No. Yeah, well, it was one of those things that, I mean, that's the irony, I think, of that album is, I could critique it for sure. There's a few things, I could use a nice ballad on it and a little break, it's pretty, but it's like, yeah, there's some really cool songs. There's some great playing. There's a lot of cool shit that everybody brought. It sounds amazing. Props to Rob on what he did with the mix on that thing. I know he wanted to commit suicide for years, and I really had to nag, and it. But yeah, it's ironic that after all of that pain and suffering, it's like, and 3 people have heard this. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll. We should just get someone to make a documentary about this. The most ridiculous band in history.
Well, who was it that I was talking to on the Instagram page? Was it Rob? I think it was Rob. Like, I had gotten like an ad for a Quartershackle Instagram page, and it was like not too long ago. And I'm like, we have an Instagram page, and like it said like cool things are coming, and I'm like, is Quartershackle reuniting and I don't know about it? Like, what the hell is happening? Like, do they have another drummer? It's like, is this the final insult? Is this the final fuck you? Like,
I'm that literal guy that's like, I play Rockstar when it comes to that band. I'm like, I won't step on stage for less than $10,000 to do anything. Hey, we're like gonna make $200 at the show. That's fine. I still want $10,000 to do it. But no, I mean that's the funny thing about Quartershackle. It's like, exciting things coming soon. That could mean in 2 weeks. It could mean in 16 years. You never know. Probably more like 16 years. But
yeah, most likely.
But what happened was, and I think it was, I want to say it was Blaine and I that were talking about it, because I had done, it's been kind of lingering on, but I mean, there's some stuff that Blaine has done in his own music that I got involved with, and it's really, really fucking cool shit, man. I can't wait for at some point when it's all said and done. It's going to be, I'm very proud to promote it. It's very cool. But it was like, I think we were working on some of his stuff one night, and we just got stoned probably and started talking. And I was like, man, yeah, we should just put something out with like, do something, because it's not anywhere. Like literally, like it's on Bandcamp and that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's not even on fucking Spotify, for Christ's sake. And so at some point between now and the end of the world, there'll be a re-release of it, I guess. But like, so we just said, and I thought what would be funny is, since Quartershackle is like a band that, but basically was already in like a lot of
the best
turmoil.
band.
But Joe quit, the singer quit, so there's really no singer, right? And so I was like, well, we should just put out the song Tension. So Rob sort of just whipped up a video for Tension, which I thought was hilarious, which is a fucking cool song, though. I mean, speaking of things that you played and don't know that you played, I mean, I think Tension's probably one of those songs, because it's just like a lot of that is almost the end of that song is kind of like a drum solo, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it gets a bit crazy.
Oh, and that's my one moment too, where I'm just like, I just out of nowhere in the studio, like was just like, let me try this, and just did like a shreddy solo, which I never do, I love that song. And I mean, I think most of the album's pretty cool. And I'm, for some reason, as a stubborn person, I'm always like, we should put it out again and add some, because we had cool live stuff too. We had the Beatles medley we did, which exists somewhere. Was recorded at one of those rock fests,
And that thing was killer too. That medley was killer.
It was really good. The only thing we did a lot of songs. I forgot how many, we did several Alice in Chains covers. We did all kinds of shit, but I really wish more than anything, I'm glad that the Beatles medley exists, but I wish there was a version of our cover of War Pigs, because I really think that we had a couple of times where we just crushed it on that song, and it was really good.
I actually completely forgot that we played that song. until
we didn't play
this
it
moment.
that much. Yeah, we didn't play it that much, but we played it a few times and it was pretty badass. So, but yeah, I mean, we're talking back in 2007, 8. I want to say the last shows we played were maybe 2009.
Yeah, I think that band is probably like one of the best bands that never happened. You know, like it really is. Like it was a great band that did some awesome shit that never really got its moment to really just show everyone. Like, you know, I'm not saying we need to be famous, but like really let the, you know, the people who would dig it really see it.
It's just, I think, right, it kind of started to get to that place, and then a lot of things just went south, and it never got wings. But one thing I was going to say was the drums that Jeremiah had, is that your Mapex kit?
Yeah, that's the Mapex kit. You
don't have any of that anymore. Just sell it or what?
No, I just got it back, and I set it up. I set it up in my shop.
Badass!
I was actually playing it like not more than an hour ago. A little more than an hour ago, because right after I finished playing it, I looked at my emails and I realized that I had an email from you guys, and I'm like, "When's the 27th?" And my girlfriend Yoshi was like, "That's today." And I'm
Classic Chris Farrell.
I'm like, "That's nice to see. Nothing has changed, but I'm not late. I wasn't late. I was on time."
Oh man, look, you were ahead of me. I was on the toilet, so
nothing has changed.
Exactly.
I don't realize that it's a day. And exactly. You're on the toilet.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just like old times.
I have no concept of time. I never have. I was telling Vic earlier when we first logged on and we were waiting on you, I was just like, oh, well, nothing has changed. I didn't know that we were supposed to do this today, which would infuriate the hell out of Skunk. And, he's on the toilet. Probably premeditatively being infuriated with me and just trying to poop in anger.
It was just took all my frustrations off beforehand.
Feral.
Get it out. Just get it out. That's my zen. That's my yoga. And unfortunately, I had a lot of Thanksgiving food to prep for this, so I feel very clean.
Oh yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Did you do anything Thanksgiving-y?
No. I mean, I had dinner. It was just me and Yoshi and Fenris, my dog, in the shop, and it was awesome because I didn't have to go anywhere.
I just remembered something about Thanksgiving when, because it had been a little bit since we had played, because a good Rogering, you played with us from, I think, 2010 and 2011, I think. And then we had another guy, and then there was that big sort of gap from like mid 2012 to like 2016. And, but when Lifeblood came out, which was the album you tracked with us, I think this was the reason why I met up with you on a Thanksgiving one time at some dude's house, and there was a bunch of people there, and I showed up. I'm thinking maybe to give you a couple of the CDs, or maybe it was an early mix or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you recall that. And I just remember sitting around some random person's house watching cartoons or some crazy shit.
Yeah, I remember that. And we sat outside and we talked for a while, and I told you I was sorry for always being an asshole.
At least you apologize every time I see you. Hey, man, and once again. Oh, no, we always kind of randomly run into each other because then, man, and this happens with a lot of people, and then you're like, wow, shit, I can't believe it's been 3 or 4 years, but we ran into each other at Lucky Lounge. Oh, yeah, it was someone I worked with that I went out there to check out their band. I think it was the band The Sophies.
My ex-girlfriend is in the Sophies.
Okay, and I remember sitting there, and there was a few times, you're obviously very recognizable there. I think there was once or twice before I maybe kind of saw you somewhere. I was like, I think that's Chris over there. And but I remember seeing you that night, and it was kind of like, and then we ended up chatting for quite a while, and that was kind of like the first catch up in a long time, I think.
Sorry for being an asshole, man.
Back in the days before we all lived in our boxes, people still ventured out in the world from time to time.
Yeah, there were like places to go, and they were open, and you couldn't be arrested for driving after 10 o'clock at night. which apparently is a thing this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, glad I don't have any desire to leave my house anymore.
Yep, thanks Amazon.
That's the point.
I get everything I need now from Amazon. It's fine.
So you have the Mapex kit, which is like that beige color kit, right?
It's like a nicotine pearl, mother of pearl. So it's got like a nicotine stained mother of pearl wrap on it. It's
and
pretty.
Is that the kit that you recorded Quartershackle and a Good Rogering albums on?
Yes. The very same kit.
And then you also had, was it a tie kit? What were those? What was that other one called? Start with a T.
Yeah, I had a gray tie kit that I bought right before the Mapex, and I played it at one gig with Quartershackle. We played a gig at what was that bar on 7th Street? It was like Red 7 or something. I think it was Red 7 at the time. And we did a South by show, and I bled all over it because I clipped one of my knuckles and blood flew everywhere, and it got on my face, and the crowd thought it was amazing. Because it was a South by show, so we had a big crowd. And I got a memory for you. You're going to remember this gig when I say this. The band that went on after us was the band that had all the electric fans on, and they stood in front of the fans and just had the fans blowing their hair back. And they were a pretty good prog rock band, but like I just couldn't get over the whole like standing in front of the fans and like that was their stage show, their hair blowing in fucking fans.
Oh, I think that was Red 7. I remember that. Yeah.
And but there was a great show for us. And then those guys went on, and I was just like, I want to fucking murder everyone in this band. And then the singer asked me to play with him.
He no longer is on this planet.
No, I don't know where he is, but he was they were a pretty well known band. I don't remember who it was though, and he was a pretty well known progressive rock singer, and he was good. Like they weren't bad. It
was that wasn't Rusty Cooley, was it?
I have no idea. That doesn't sound right.
I'm trying to think because they had a band like that, and I think they did the fan thing too. But they were, I don't know. I mean, that's the part. You know, it's when you're in a prog rock band, you got to have your hair blown around. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah, it was like nothing but skinny jeans and fucking electric fans, and I was just like, I can't do this. I want to murder somebody.
I don't know. I don't know if I can get behind the skinny jeans and fans. That's just too much all in one. You know, speaking of hair, Vic had brought up a classic Good Rogering Chris Farrell moment, I think, on a podcast one time. Vic, you want to, bring that up.
Yeah. I think you were telling me one time that Chris lost a drumstick in his hair one time.
Might have been the same gig.
I think it might have been. I think you mentioned Red 7.
Oh, it was Red-Eyed Fly.
Red-Eyed Fly. Okay.
Oh yeah. Because like when I play, I do a lot of rim shots on my snare, and the center of my drumsticks just start to fray out, and they just become like this gnarly, like just. It's something I'm very proud of because I just dig that it happens. They don't break. They just kind of give up their ghost eventually, and but they get this frayed, like all the wood puffs out and splinters in the middle. And we were playing, and I play. I'm pretty
animated.
I'm pretty animated when I play. And like we went in to play, and I come back like this, and I'm like, oh shit.
It was classic because I mean, we're already the spectacle, and and you're up there, animal just going crazy with the long flailing hair. I mean, great stage presence always, And my brother at the time in the chef's hat, and me, I think I might have even been doing the preacher thing. So there were so many people that saw us back then that were like, I remember that have come across me later, in recent years or something, that said, "Oh, I remember you from way back the first time I saw you," and I was walked in as a guy in a chef's hat and this whole thing, and I'm just like, who the fuck are these guys? I mean, I definitely, it was definitely eye catching. But I remember that night at Red Eyed Fly, we were playing, and it was, and all of a sudden, like something dropped out, like the snare of the hi hat, and I was just like, and I turned around and just like, you're over there, just still had it going with the snare, but you're just like wrestling this fucking drumstick out of your
Because it hurt. Like, I would have just grabbed another stick, but the thing was like dragging my neck back, and I'm like, this is actually painful. And so yeah, I was trying to get it out before it scalped me.
I wonder if a video of that. I have no idea. Like what, God knows what's on old. What do you call those little HDMI cards? Is that what you call those little things?
Yeah,
yeah, a bunch of those old things. So maybe one day it'll pop up on YouTube.
You used to have the only known drum solo by me on the Good Rogering site.
Yeah, no, it's still. I think that's still on YouTube. It was on it. That was a Dirty Dog gig. We had a few videos from a Dirty Dog show, and you did. Well, it was great because I don't think it was anything really long. Most drummers, a lot of times I played with, they don't really want to do drum solos, and I'm like, kind of like, no, do a drum solo, especially if we don't have enough material yet. But it was great. Oh, I know what it was in Lifeblood, and we haven't done this. Maybe we did it one gig with the latest lineup, but I loved the way we used to do a tag on that song, and what would happen is we would end the normal song, and you would do a little bit of a drum solo. And I think we did part of Moby Dick in that spot.
Yeah.
That's how we brought it back in. And then we go into this fucking cool, like just jammy riff with more soloing and stuff. But there's, I think on that video, the one you're talking about, you do kind of do a drum solo. And it's like the typical thing. And then you just end it with this ping, like a little ride bell.
It's why I can't be trusted with drum solos. I don't want to do like a cool, like, look at my technique solo. I always want to do like, look at this silly shit. Like
I think it was good. I was a perfect Good Rogering drum solo.
I aim to please.
So that's amazing. Actually, congrats on getting the Mapex back. And so what? The other kit, you just bled all over it, and then you were like, I don't like this. Here you go.
Well, when I got that kit, because basically I got that kit because at the time before that I was using a Yamaha Recording Custom, which I loved, but it just didn't match the sound that we were going for. I needed something bigger and meaner, and I wanted a bigger bass drum because the Yamaha had a 22 kick and it was punchy and good, but just not right for what I wanted, what I heard in my head for Quartershackle. And I found this tie kit, had a big 24-inch kick and a 16 and 18 floor toms, and it had a 14 mounted. And I'm like, well, that's big. And we used it for that one gig. And the next day, I walked into Jeff Ryder's drum shop, and the Mapex was just set up in the back. And like I saw it from the front door. I'm like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Nothing. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it." I'm like, "I want that. I need that drum set." And I switched to the Mapex, and the tie kit kind of sat around for a while, like feeling all like lonesome and unused. But then I used it, once the Mapex kit went with Jeremiah, I was using the tie like for, I used it with Thunder Roast and, whatever else was in town at the time.
Well, it's funny how sometimes things like that eventually come in handy. Who know? I've got so many things that I'm like, I should just sell this. Why do I have this? And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, holy shit. All of a sudden I need this thing that I've had for fucking 10 years.
Yeah. I still have it, actually. It's in storage. The tie kit's in storage right now.
Okay. And I remember you were using Jeff Ryder a lot. I guess you kind of got all your drums through him back then. Yeah. He
had a store up here at the time. He doesn't have the store in Austin anymore. Now he's back. He just has a store in San Antonio. But,
yeah, I forgot that he was originally, I guess, down there and then opened up one here. Because sometimes I see some Instagram stuff, or it's fairly recent. I saw some Jeff Ryder drum shop stuff. Yeah, man. So the Blades, like, how long did you say this is the actual Fearghal has been up now? Like 10 years?
Yeah, Fearghal's been up. I think I started it in 20. It's either 2011 or 2013. I'm not exactly sure.
Maybe it was a little later because you were still doing the Good Rogering Jeremiah Houston stuff quite a bit back then, and maybe you were still kind of building up to it. Maybe it was still stabby things in 2011.
Yeah, I was making knives and stuff the whole time, but like the business itself I put together later on. Once I was in that house on, down on 47th in Hyde Park. I was just like outside of Hyde Park. I didn't pay Hyde Park rent, but I could throw a rock across the street and hit Hyde Park.
Yeah, you were like super close to 35 over there, right?
Yeah. It was not.
Just forgot what I was going to say. Do you do like a lot of trade shows? A lot of you do like Ren Fair and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have a booth at Sherwood, the Ren Fair that's near here, Sherwood Forest Fair. It's off 290. And I do a lot of like knife shows, comic conventions sometimes. Well, I mean, I was doing those kinds of events, but now that the world is over, I haven't been doing them. This last year has been kind of rough, but Sherwood should be starting up in March. So I think in March it starts up again.
So are trade shows like a pretty good? Do you find that that's something where you really end up selling well, or is a lot of online, or just a mix, or what's your experience with that?
Usually it's the shows. I do better at the shows for a long time. Online sales are, kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you do pretty all right, and then other times you'll go months with nothing will sell online. So I always kind of hung my hat with doing the events, and because when I do the events, I'm doing demonstrations and stuff, so people see me do the job. They see how something is made, and they're a little more interested that way when they see a hunk of steel get turned into a knife, and they're like, oh yeah, I want one of those.
You're actually there on site with tools.
Yeah.
Making a blade, working on a blade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you doing that. Even watching you would show up to, what was that coffee shop? I wonder if you're still inhabited. Probably. What's the place on North Loop?
Yeah, I don't hang out there anymore, but I used to hang out at Epoch Coffee.
Epoch, yeah, and I remember going up to meeting up there a few times, and you would just have a little roll of knives that you would.
Yeah. I'd sit there and hand sand for hours.
Yeah.
Most of my time is spent just polishing handles, and sitting there and hand sanding shit for like 10 hours and wishing I would have chosen a better profession, maybe. I thought I'd get carpal tunnel from playing drums. I'm going to get carpal tunnel from sanding handles.
I was going to say, whenever you start feeling that, though, you can be like, well, at least I'm not playing drums in a rock band anymore.
Yeah, at least I don't have to carry fucking drums anywhere. That's great.
Put up with people's shit. Trying to tell me to do stuff. Fucking skunk. Fucking asshole.
You didn't tell me to do stuff that often. I've had worse encounters with people who have.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm relative. I mean, I've had a few blowouts and temper tantrums. Really, to be honest, the only very few people push me to that point. I mean, a lot of times I get kind of quiet and I just want to stab people in my mind, but I don't really, make it obvious that I'm really super pissed. I think they can probably tell that I'm not thrilled. But you and my brother have a whole nother knack for pushing me to a whole nother place of fucking pissed.
That makes me feel kind of better, actually, because it means there's a certain like connection and emotional content that is better than just like some dude I played with.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason all his hair is gray,
You're welcome. Now you look distinguished.
Yeah, I'm very distinguished. Why do you have white eyebrows? Okay, so check out the next episode of the podcast.
This fucker right here. No, the thing that always got me, what always drove me nuts with drums and just drove me away from wanting to play in bands was I would hear the same thing all the time from people. They'd be like, they'd see me play with someone, like they'd see me play with a good rogering or something like that, and they'd be like, yeah, I want you to record my next thing, and I want you to play drums like you play, how you would play this, I want you to do on the record. And then I'd start doing it, and they'd be like, yeah, but could you play that like more like on the recording? And I'm like, no, I because I wouldn't do that. Like, I mean, that recording got you through the demo phase, and it's cool, but that's not what I would do here. This is, it's a different visualization altogether. Like, it doesn't make sense to me at all. And they'd be like, yeah, huh?
I was going to say, in my experience now, just from sort of years of recording and working with different people in all kinds of different bands and situations, it's like I really think you kind of a lot of it just boils down to who's right for whatever sort of project, and knowing like if you want a very strict, hey, this is what I recorded and I've got a chart and I want it to be like Chris Farrell's not your guy. If you want something that's just like, come in here and make this your own and, just put, because I mean, to be fair, when you play, you may not know the song, but you're going to put 100% into the what you're playing. Like, I mean, that's definitely one of your strong points is like you are a natural showman. You always look great on stage, and when you play with passion. You know what I mean? It might be you might be pissed as fuck and not want to be there, but you're still playing with passion. And actually, a funny story about that. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time, but when you're recording with a good Rogering, Jesus fucking Christ! I mean, you were there. There was some less than pleasant moments, but it's kind of funny. I feel like the same thing can happen sometimes, whether it's a producer in the studio. And I'm not saying that there was an intent of this happening. There was a happy accident, but directors, sometimes the more you push someone, sometimes you get a good performance. And so I think we did 3 takes of Caveman Angry, which is arguably one of a good Rogering's most known family-friendly songs. And so Caveman Angry, first of all, is this just fantastic song that for the most part my brother wrote that was just brilliant. And then when and it was one of these mini songs that was kind of sitting around, as there still are, that had just kind of written as a demo and set. And actually, no, I take that back. We had played that prior with Mike Molina in the band. So we had been playing that live, but it hadn't been recorded. You came in or maybe it was from Quartershackle. The whole reason the words eat, fuck, kill are in that song is because of your bass drum. Yeah. Because we had A, E, ah, wait, the caveman grunting. And then I was like, wait, how about, and then we say eat, fuck, kill. And that became like, and then the end of the song, so that really came from your bass drum. And I remember somebody, it was so offensive to me. Like I listened to Wasp. Ugh. Someone was like, oh, you stole that from Wasp? Because Wasp has something called like eat, be stupid, kill, kill or something. They have a similar thing. I was like, God, no, that's not from Wasp. Where did that come from, by the way, on your bass drum?
It was just a sticker that I found. Like, I think it was in what's that head shop that's popular here?
Planet K or something?
Yeah, I think it was at Planet K. Like, I was in a Planet K and I found all these bumper stickers and one of them said eat, fuck, kill. And I'm like, that's appropriate for me.
Oh, yeah. The best part about that, I mean, it was perfect for a good Rogering brand, because right up, you walk in, a dude in a chef's hat is just these tall guys, this maniac with the long hair flailing around the drums. You got to eat, fuck, kill. It's just like, it worked for that brand. Jeremiah Houston, on the other hand, you had to get a whole nother bass drum covering when we played with him, right?
Oh,
it wasn't really suitable for the I want to go out and dance and have a good time crowd.
Yeah, I think the first time I played with Jeremiah, because I didn't, I wasn't thinking. I actually got the Jeremiah gig from Mike Molina.
No, I remember that. Yeah. No, Mike was always setting people up. Yeah.
Yeah, he had called me up one weekend and he's like, hey, man, I've got like 3 gigs this weekend and I can only do one of them. Could you do one of these? And I'm like, well, what do you got? And he's like, well, I got this blues band in Austin. And I'm like, bah. And he's like, I've got this Texas country thing. And I'm like, oh, I've never played in a Texas country band. This should be fun. Give me that one. and so I show up and load my drums up and we unpack them and set them up and like, it's got all these stickers on the bass drum that are like eat, fuck, kill, and fuck you pussy bikers and all this other shit on there. And it's like all these offensive stickers. And like one of the gigs that weekend was a wedding. So yeah, Maya eventually got me another bass drum head. He's like, could you please put this on there? And then he got me a really nice one, which was like one of the album covers, which was this really cool. It's an awesome bass drum head because the album cover was a big Ferris wheel, and it was just really, really really nice artwork. And he had it made as a bass drum head, and it's on there to this day because it was just like, it's so pretty. I was just like, I can't not use this. This is awesome.
Look at you all grown up.
Yeah, sometimes I'm an adult.
That made me think of another show, man. Made me think of a good Rogering show. This was hilarious. So and this was a show you got because it was during South by, and we had a couple of, normal dirty, who knows, whatever, downtown type gigs. But then you were like, hey, my buddy owns or runs this, it was some sushi place. And they were having, right. And they were having bands throughout the day out. They had this big sort of concrete slab out front area that they were like, we can set up there and people can just hang out and watch and this and that. And so we were like, all right. And it was like at 2 p.m. or some shit. Yeah. So we go to this gig and it's us. I don't remember who was before us, but we're playing and all of a sudden, like, there's a lot of kids there. And we're like, yeah, okay. We played Caveman Angry. I changed the words and it was like, eat, have fun, candy. I don't even, God knows, right? But I just remember like we can't, there's no way we can actually play our real set in front of this crowd, Yeah. And the crazy part is like, we literally opened for these fuckers because like after us, it was like half the kids got on stage. I'm like, oh, no wonder. These are the friends of the kid band who is now playing after us. We were coming up, like parents were like, you guys were really great. It's really different.
It's really different.
I hope Don Simpson showed up in a fucking witch mask. People are like, this is interesting. What's this? Did space drums say? Fudge. Fudge.
It says, like Nietzsche and shit. Just go get some food.
Yeah, that's Latin. Those guys are real advanced.
Yeah, that was that. Zen. The restaurant was called Zen.
There you go. Is that place still there, Nino?
Zen still exists. However, that restaurant, I think that location changed to a different restaurant. But they still have Zen stores. I think there's a couple around Austin. Everything's quiet.
Well, you're lighting up. We're just watching, admiring. So, we could go. There's plenty of gig stories we could go off on. I don't know if we're quite ready to get to the shit story yet. You got anything? What do you got, Vic?
Is this the shit story from the White Rabbit?
No, enlighten me.
I'm trying to remember I think you were in the band at the time. Did you play the White Rabbit with us?
It's the only time I've ever played the White Rabbit. I've never played the White Rabbit with AGR. Of course, now they're called Tiger or something or other. Paper Tiger, I think. Still looks like a cool ass place. Whoever was doing the booking there for a while was just, they were like, if you're not a 19-year-old emo band, fuck you. But way back, I had played there way back in the late 90s in San Antonio. It was the first places I ever gigged at, and I always liked that place. And then when Quartershackle, we did some award show there for the, God damn it, what was that magazine? The Edge?
Yeah, The Edge.
Yeah. And it was all those, like, all the usual suspects from back then, right? Maven and a lot of the bands we played with, and Powderburn. Yeah, Powder. Man, one of the last, I think, were you with the band when we played that show? It was us, and it was a Maven return. It was like one of Powderburn's last shows when they put out their last EP or something, and it was a good Rogering Maven and Powderburn. Was that you?
Where was it? Do you remember? Dirty Dog? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think I did that show. I don't remember.
Yeah, same old bands. This would have been like 2006, I guess. So I played White Rabbit with Quartershackle once, maybe twice. I just remember playing. The gig I remember it was really cold. It was cold. It was rainy. It was December, and it was like awful because we were having to unload our gear out in the fucking rain and stand outside because there were so many bands on that bill.
I remember I got there literally 10 minutes before we were supposed to be on stage, and everyone was mad at me. I was mad at me, but it was because I had some shit happen, like while I was trying to leave, and and it was just the whole day was a shitstorm trying to get down there, and I'd gotten there literally in time to take the drums out of the car and put them on stage.
Directly on stage, yeah.
And I felt awful, and I'm just like, I'm an asshole. There's no way I'm not the asshole here, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so I'm just going to play the drums and fucking go home and be the asshole. Yeah.
But then you had to take a shit. Where's the shit story come in?
Oh no, it's not actually about shit. I'm sorry. Oh, that's what you meant by shit stories. I just thought.
I mean, if we were talking about that other kind of shit story, we'd be here all night.
Yeah, I just thought it was stories where I am specifically a shit.
Oh no, I mean, grab a journal.
Skunk's changing the format of the podcast to talk about creating your own Jackson Pollock paintings with shit. Blowing up.
No, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this moment for years. I have a journal of all the Chris Farrell fuck ups, and I was just like, so December 8th, 2009.
If it's a journal of my fuck ups, it's not this big. It's like you're calling up Britannica.
It's an Encyclopedia Britannica. just the entire thing wall behind me would just be
there's volumes. I don't have episodes. I got volumes.
You should be cool and make them into scrolls, though. It's more of a Chris Farrell thing. I think it fits the brand, right? Kind of like more Middle Earthy. With as you smoke your Bilbo pipe.
Hey, remember this time you made that group of children cry?
There's a whole volume just for that.
Like, I told them not to sit those kids near me.
Like making children cry, inappropriate drum covers. I meant like physically bowel movement story was what I was getting at. So there was a time. This is great stuff. There was a time, and this is Rob's story, so he would do it more justice. But there, and I wasn't there. I just heard about it. But apparently there was a time. I don't know if it was during the album recording or rehearsal day. Well, I don't know when it was. But when you were up there, and I think maybe this was before my time in the band, even, and something was going on, and you were like, "Hey, I got to run to the bathroom." And so there's kind of like the studio had a lobby, and then you'd go in, and there was like the main control room when the bathroom was kind of off to the left, and then you went around like a side area, and that's where the big live room was. So I imagine maybe someone was in the control room with the door closed. Rob, band was in there. You go off to go to the bathroom, and then all this time goes by, and they're just like, "What the fuck's going on?" So Rob comes out, and he said, like, there's nobody there. You're gone, and there's like, I could be wrong, but there's like a fan blowing into the bathroom or something. And you would basically clogged or overflowed the toilet and then had to like, you just left to go get like a, what do you call it? Like a wetback?
I don't remember this. I have no memory of this at all.
Pretty classic.
But damn, that's messed up.
I mean, props to you. I that's one of your finer moments in my book.
I mean, if I had left, I definitely would have left to do something to fix the bathroom.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think you were just like, all right, I have to go. This is happening, and I have to go get a clean up. But I just think it's funny that apparently the band was just like, waiting around, and then they're like, oh no, I broke the toilet and went to.
See, you have me at a bit of a disadvantage because. One of the things that has happened over the years is I've had a bunch of concussions, and my memory actually kind of sucks. And so there are times where like I won't remember something I did at all, like I have no memory at all. Or if once you get me into context, I'll remember it. But there's shit that I've done that I have no recollection of that people tell me about, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that sucks.
I'll have to confirm this with Rob. But again, this is a Rob story, so it could be grossly exaggerated. That which always makes it funny. But
remember, he is a soulless redhead, so
Yeah, I mean,
that motherfucker is projecting.
Yeah, no argument here.
I wish he was here for this.
Well, again, like we were trying to get him on last time. I'll get him on at some point. We got to figure out the call-in thing, but I don't think that would work. Send him a Zoom link and be like, "Get on here right now. Come see who our guest is." We could like, dude, straight up, just be like, "Hey, can you come on the podcast for a quick few minutes? We just want to get your confirmation on a bowel movement story."
I mean, this is important.
This
listeners want to know, or
This is what our
watchers.
14 subscribers on YouTube are dying to hear about.
It's important, yeah, because that's what everyone wants to know about me: the history of my bowel movements.
Okay, so now that we've gotten the important stuff out of the way, tell us about how you got on the show Forged in Fire. How did that happen?
So before I did Forge and Fire, I did an article with crack.com back in like 2013 or something like that. I met up with one of the writers, a brilliant writer actually. His name's Robert Evans. He does a few other podcasts as well. I don't want to like rep other podcasts on your podcast.
Oh, go ahead. No one listens to us. What are they called?
Shoot, I might listen to it.
But well, he
I'm
does
sick of ours already. Let me go check this out.
he does one called Behind the Bastards and another one called Worst Year Ever, which is about this year. And the Behind the Bastards is like, more historically like driven, a deep dive into, historical people who were terrible and, with like comic relief, so it's like about history, but funny, making fun of all of the tragedy in the world. Because what else can we do about it? But before he did that, he wrote for Cracked, and he bought a knife from me, and we got to talking, and he asked me if I'd be interested in doing an article with Cracked. And I'm like, yeah, sure. We did an article, and it went viral. It blew up. Like millions of people saw this article, and like I was like introduced to the entire internet in a day, and it was wild, but it was cool, and it kind of put my work on the map. And I think that's how the people from Forge and Fire, when they were first putting the show together, went looking for, bladesmiths, and I'm one of the people who would pop up if you Google. And they found me and called me and asked me if I'd be interested in doing it. And I was kind of wary about it at first, but I'm really bad at saying no to things that I haven't done before. And I asked them where they were going to film it, and they're like, well, we're not sure if we're filming it in New York or if we're filming it in LA. And I'm like, whereabouts in New York? And they're like, well, probably New York City. And I'm like, cool, if you do it in New York, I'll do it. And they're like, why? I was like, well, because my family's out there and I can't afford to go see them. So I did Forge and Fire for a plane ticket to go see my mom. And then I won.
So Chris Farrell of you. Yeah. It really, like, knowing you personally, like that, it's not that, it almost sounds like a TV story, but that's like literally like totally something that like makes sense if you know you. But yeah, I mean, so that was in season 2, right?
No, I did season 1. I did the second episode ever. So
that's right. It was the second episode of season 1. Okay, yeah, okay, and then you won that whole thing. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool, man. And so you got, I mean, that like you said, you got put on the map from the Cracked thing. And guy, the dude, the writer that you met with the podcast, is he here in Austin, or how did he find you?
At the time, he lived here in Austin, and now I think he lives up in Portland.
Okay.
But yeah, he's like a legitimate conflict journalist now, and he's a pretty badass journalist and writer. I urge pretty much anyone I meet. I was like, check out this guy. He's awesome.
What does he do now in terms of do you know who he writes for, or what he writes about?
Right now he's covering mostly the political conflicts that we have right now in the country, and he covered the conflict up in Portland, which is if you've ever talked to me about like the protests and stuff that happen up there, I usually tell people, I was like, you don't know what's really happening. Like, what you've seen on TV, but you really, like, you got it wrong. Like, it's like, you got it wrong. It's like, I don't want to be a dick about it because, you don't know better, so it's like, check this dude out. He's there. He's covering it. He's part of, the stuff that's happening in the world right now. He's covering our changing political culture as it's happening. And he's not doing it from like, a liberal side or a Republican side. He's very good at trying to stay in the middle and showing the information from all sides and going, look, this guy is actually a Nazi. These.
Well, a little confused. So you're saying that this guy's not just sitting at home on Facebook arguing with people, like he's actually out doing things?
Yeah, he's actually out and getting his hand broken at protests while being a journalist and covering them. Yeah, most recently he had I think his hand got broken, or a couple of his fingers got broken because some jerk off just saw him there and started swinging at him with one of the batons, and him and the people he works with, they're all out there just trying to cover it and
Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. Well, mostly recently that's where he's been, but he's been all over the country. He's been in 3 different, he's been all over the world covering civil wars in other countries. And being under fire, getting shot at and shit. He's the real deal. He's really a fascinating guy. And I don't know how he manages to kind of stay central on a lot of the issues that he manages to do without going, listen, stop being asshole. But he's.
I wonder if he carries your blade around.
He does.
Maybe he'll stab a protester one day with your blade.
I'm making an axe for him right now, actually.
Oh hell! Ooh.
Yeah. I'm making he wanted a hiking axe, and then I went and I made something way more complicated because. He's my buddy and he deserves it.
Like a tomahawk?
Yeah. Well, it's an axe. It's still an axe, but I gave it a really fancy handle with bloodwood and ebony in the center, and the axe is Damascus, and I did a copper etch on it. It's
nice.
It's nice. It's pretty wild.
I know I'm setting myself up here, but do you ever look at people and be like visualize that would be a perfect weapon for that guy? When you look at Vic and I, what would you think in terms of weapons for us?
Weapons for you guys? It's a little more complicated. I have to get to know a person and see how they hold themselves and what kind of stuff they'll use it for. It's really what kind of stuff do they want it for?
Killing drummers.
Killing drummers? Oh, I can't be killed by conventional weapons. I'm like Keith Richards.
Bastard. What about Vic? What does he look like? What's Vic's weapon?
I'd say Vic is kind of more of a tactical style, everyday carry. I could see him using a folding knife, a pretty cool folding knife, not too big,
flashy, nothing to prove,
flip it out, shiv somebody and escape down a dark alley,
Accurate. Yeah.
you need a big sword though. You need
things to compensate for.
Yeah.
I think you could make Skunk a sword and make fan blades so he can stick the fan in front of him. And
that's brilliant!
Like a Damascus or raindrop Damascus fan blades.
That's a joke, but now that you've said that, you don't even know how much I just want to get a blade and stand in front of a fan, just looking cool. And that's the thing. It's just when you're in a band and playing guitar, you're actually doing something. I will literally do nothing. I will just hold a sword with a fan blowing my hair.
Yeah, and
I'll have your banner behind me, and I'll just be like, "You're welcome." All of a sudden, all these models are buying your blades.
You just be there with a big sword in your hand, And
do you know how many blades you've made at this point?
Oh God, no. No, I mean, I've definitely crossed the threshold of a couple thousand. At least. But I mean, I've been doing it for 20 years now. So,
yeah,
it's not, it sounds impressive, but then you're like, no, it's 20 years.
And obviously it's going to be different between making a small knife and a big sword. I imagine most of what you do is probably knives, right? Not huge blades.
Yeah, I do a lot of everyday carry type stuff, smaller knives that people can wear every day, take camping with them. Stuff like that. I do a lot of kitchen knives.
What's an average sort of turnaround time on something like a blade like that?
like an everyday carry, or a kitchen knife, anywhere from like, on the low end, like, 15 hours. If it gets more complicated or something like that, or if it's like a Damascus blade, anywhere from like, 15 to 40 hours of work, for, a blade, anywhere up to like, I'd say 12 to 14 inches overall. After you start getting bigger than that, and it gets longer.
But you often have a lot of blades you're working on at once, kind of cycling around. Is that how it works?
Oh yeah, there's piles of blades everywhere in my shop. In different parts of the shop, there'll be piles of shit that I'm working on. There's some on magnets on the wall, because if they're on the wall, I'm more likely to make eye contact with them and remember I have to finish them. But yeah, it's madness. There's no rhyme or reason behind my work.
And for the Forged and Fire show, so you were able to go up there, stay. Is your family still in Staten Island?
Yeah, they're on Staten Island. This is Fenris.
Oh, hello. What's his name?
Fenris.
He or her?
He.
What kind of dog is that?
He's a German Shepherd.
Oh, that's awesome. How many dogs do you have? Is that your only dog right now?
Yeah, he's my only dog.
You've had a few. You had a few when I met you, and one of the dogs that you had. I forget what the dog's name originally was, but my friends Chris and Rochelle, remember that? Got that dog.
Mm-hmm.
A little lab, kind of smaller, lab mix. That dog's still around, man, and it's awesome. She's getting up there. She's starting to kind of have the limp and everything that Hoyt's used to, but yeah. But man, that's pretty cool. That dog got a sweet life.
That's good. I mean, my dogs that I had back then, they passed away, and I think Connor was the last, and he passed away 2 years ago. I had to put him down, but he made it to about 15, 16 years old, and then he got skin cancer, pretty aggressive skin cancer. So I had to put him down, and I took his bones, and Bunda was the golden retriever shepherd mix that I had, and I took their bones and I put them in a melt, and I made some steel out of them. So I'm going to make a knife that was made from their bones, because that's the kind of crazy shit that I do.
Yeah, and that's weird but cool. I mean, I imagine that's a blade for you that you probably wouldn't sell.
Oh yeah. that steel's just for me.
Yeah, that's cool. It's cool to see you got another dog, man. How long have you had this one?
He's 11 months old. I've had him since he was about 14 weeks.
Is he still just in puppy mode, crazy?
He's actually really chill for a puppy, and he always has been. I mean, he's still, he's a puppy, but he's actually really relaxed and pretty calm. Especially like if we're out and doing stuff and he's working, he's got his vest on. I put the vest on and he's like, "Oh, gotta work."
Okay, so that's the service dog, and obviously a shepherd, a real smart dog. So, what is his like actual role in that?
His role is basically like, if I start getting like anxious and kind of agitated, like he kind of calms me down, and he keeps people away from me. So like if people come up behind me and stuff like that, or they come up too fast, he'll bark at them, and like. He doesn't like, he's not aggressive, like he doesn't attack people, but he'll bark at you, and with his bark, you're gonna stop and go, I should probably know why that dog's barking at me, and it's just basically to kind of stop people from rushing up on me, and if I'm at an event or something like that, and kind of keep my anxiety at a manageable level, and make me less stabby.
That's good for everyone.
He makes me not stabby. What
a cute dog. Why is he wearing that vest? He makes me not stabby. Like if you had asked me that question closer, I would have stabbed you with this blade. By the way, it's $200.
It's fine when they're like on the other side of the table, but like, you get, I mean, you remember like, like doing gigs and stuff like that, people would constantly come up to me and they just start grabbing my hair and shit like that. And I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Oh yeah, you're in a bar, you're around drunk people, and then they're
just like, oh,
they don't respect boundaries. Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to touch your hair. It's like, well, I want the money that's in your wallet. How do you feel about that? give me your fucking wallet. Like.
Oh my God, I want to touch your hair. Cool, I'm gonna grab you in the pussy. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine, right? Oh no, that's different. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's not different. It's
Nope. President says it's totally cool.
In fact, I have all the qualifications to be the next president, actually, because I too was on a reality TV show. Only my businesses have never been bankrupt, so I'm actually more qualified.
Yeah, no, I think you probably are, and I think you'd be a disaster as a president, but par for the course, and it'd be pretty entertaining.
I mean, come on, could I be anyways?
It'd be funny actually when you'd be president, and I could be like, I know that guy, and when shit went bad, I'd be like,
I don't know.
Yep, classic Chris.
It's like,
Chris slept through the war.
Yeah.
What happened? Cincinnati is on fire. Why?
Mr. President, it's finally happened. The California is breaking away from the country. What should we do? Let me sleep on this. Wake me up tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's not like we can stop it.
I'd also be pretty badass to have a president with a service dog. I think that'd be pretty cool.
It is
Press conferences and shit. The dog would just start barking at the reporters it didn't like.
He barked at somebody today, actually, pretty hardcore.
That's canine speak for that's a nasty question.
Yeah, that's a yeah. He doesn't like that question. I'm considering feeding you to him. Actually, welcome to the new America.
This could be a thing. Yeah. Oh man, it's too bad Biden. Trump's not conceded yet, but I feel like if we could just keep rolling, if we could just keep pushing the far right, we could actually get there, man. Dogs eating people.
I mean, yeah,
and the far left will do it too. I don't want to leave them out.
They're really not much different from each other. It's just the people in the middle that got quiet and really didn't.
At the end of the day, I don't care which side it is, far right or left. As we start feeding reporters to animals, I'm in.
I think it's really the policy we are missing is
really, quite honestly, like let's start with the paparazzi. Fucking put that shit on reality TV. I'll watch it. I'll pay for that shit. I don't care about this new Tyson fight, but if we can watch, paparazzi get mauled by bears, I'm in.
Or paparazzi fight Tyson.
Oh, that is good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like if you want to be a fucking reporter, you've got to do Running Man.
Yes. Yes.
Or that scene from Anchorman where they fall in the pit and go into a bear fight.
I'm saying, like, show me how much you want it, and then I'll let you do it. Like,
motherfuckers don't have Baxter to save you.
I think the same should happen with politicians, though. But, earn that shit.
It's so fucking silly. With all this stuff happening with the masking and all this, and like I did a couple of
rants,
aggressive, but one with more tongue in cheek. And what's that?
I said rants.
Rants. Well, I mean, I did a couple of songs, so I feel like I did something kind of productive. I was frankly a bit proud of my rap song as a white guy, but so, and that wasn't aggressive, like go fuck yourself if you're not wearing a mask and you're, one of these, look at me in my AR-15 freedom bull. I'm just not, that's not me. I've made it real clear. I had some things to say about it. I'm better now, but I mean, yeah. And then it was just one thing after another with the fiasco of the debates and the politics and all this and that. And here we are, and assuming Biden will be the next president, and we'll see if things balance out a bit. And he's done a great job of playing the game, which Trump clearly has no idea or interest how to do. Yeah. But what will really happen when they take office, we'll see. But I started up that Facebook group, that a handful of people got in, and you're one of those people that were in there. And what I like about it is, honestly, like you and there was some people I haven't talked to in years and years, right? And we're all on Facebook and whatever. We don't see each other's content a lot, we don't know what pops up in our feeds, and because of that, I engaged in some conversations with some various people, whether we agreed or not, and we kept it civil and it was cool, whatever, man, right? Yeah. And then, not naming names, we all know the guy. There's guy. People in those. I know everyone in that group's like blocked him, and I'm like, I really should because dude, frankly, it's like I had a really funny conversation with another friend of mine I used to play in a band with, who we've had a few guys that were in that group on the podcast, and just talking about that dude. And it's just like, man, that's the whole point though of why I started that and what my agenda was, is like, let's, regardless, like we should be able to talk about things, in a civil manner and not attack each other. And then you get someone who's just a rabid, dog.
So,
and it's like, dude, you're totally missing the fucking point here,
So what you don't know about that interaction is I actually private messaged that dude, trying to not to be a dick to him, but to try.
No, you were real tactful in your feed as well.
And I invited him over for a beer. I was like, hey, why don't you come over and have a beer and sit down with me and we'll talk about things. And he's like, oh, are you threatening me? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not threatening you. I'm like, hey, I'm inviting you to my shop to hang out, maybe swing some hammers, make a knife. Come hang out with me. We'll talk about some shit and we'll find some common ground. And like in these conversations, the guy's like, yeah, I'm tired of leftists calling me a racist, this, that, and the other thing. And then like, I shit you not, no more than like, I don't know, 6 or 7 messages later, the guy goes off on a rant with, shouting out bullshit percentages and numbers that prove how much more violent black people are than white people. And I'm like, if you don't want people to call you a racist, maybe you shouldn't say racist shit. That's why you're a racist.
Well, I think a big point right there. Yeah. And I think a big point right there is that people become so interested in one-upping and proving other people wrong. And the politicians do it all the time. And I don't believe any of it. It's just anyone can just go look at any random ass website and do minimal research and start spouting a bunch of facts, right? And you're using these statistics to prove whatever your own point is. What should be doing is going like, well, here's what I've read and here's what I'm, savvy to or knowledgeable of to the best of my knowledge. How about you? And then you kind of go back and forth and you'll find, most times things aren't here or here. They're, somewhere there. But what happens is you get that kind of person that is just not, and it could be a far right, far left, either way, that's just not willing to do that at all. And all they do is keep hammering their point, belittling anyone who disagrees with them. And it's funny. It was an interesting thing to watch because to me, it doesn't matter if you're right or left. When someone does that, it turns me not only away from that person, but you're actually doing damage, I think, to your own agenda, to your own party, if that's what you're going for. Because people start to go, Jesus Christ, you're disgusting. I don't want anything to do with you. Fuck you're actually doing a disservice to what you're trying. And it's all about the tact about how you do it. And personal opinion, I really feel like that's what Trump. I mean, I know there's the media. I get that that is a half truth. I'm not going to deny that there's a lot of liberal media and talk show hosts that endlessly go after Trump, in some ways, rightfully so. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think like he really did it to himself by just not acknowledging very basic fundamental things and being so bullheaded about it. It's like, I said this like at the beginning of this pandemic, I was like, there was someone I had this big who came at me about some stuff and I kind of retaliated. And I don't do this often. I've only done it a couple of times and I'm not one of those guys, I'll write an email and not send it, but I was like, all right, motherfucker, I'm going to let you fucking have it. And I did. And I was like, one of the last things I said, I was like, it's people, because I was like, drop the macho routine, blah, blah, blah. It's people like you that fucking, give the Republicans and Trump a bad name, blah, blah, blah. If Biden gets elected, you can pat yourself on the back. And sure enough, and I mean, and again, like I'm not a one way or another politically. I'm very independent thinking in that manner. I identify with all kinds of different things, but like, I just think it's the tackiness of when someone is so outspoken about something and so unwilling to listen to anyone else who's not in perfect alignment with their fucking conditioning. It's just despicable to me.
Yeah. And that is the heart of like some of the biggest issue we have here in this country is people they're refusing to accept that multiple things can be true and happening at the same time. And, it's not a black and white. Nothing is black and white. Everything runs on a spectrum, and it's like people hate that, there's people who hate that word. And it's just like, no, this is life. Life runs on a spectrum. Everything runs on a spectrum and everyone. And, like nothing is this way or that way. It's just not like that. And the sooner you wrap your head around that, the easier your life is going to be, and the faster we can get shit done. And like with Biden, like I'm not a fan of Biden. I despise Trump, and it's not a secret. And mostly everyone who knows me knows that. But my despising of Trump goes back to when I lived in New York, and I've seen the man be a complete piece of shit, like in real life. Like I've seen him be completely like just not worthy of air, and so I was not surprised by any of his behavior. And I'm just like, he's a really bad choice. Like this is a bad person. He's bad at being a person, you know. But you know, whatever. Like you know, people didn't have that perspective, so like I wasn't like mad about it. I was like, well, you don't have my experience. You didn't see the things that I do. I get it. He says the things that you want to hear. I can get behind that. It's when you start taking that and you start like just fucking like one-siding everything and like, Democrats and that and this and anyone who doesn't believe that Trump was sent by God is a bad human. And it's like, okay, you need to fucking, I'm going to stab you.
10, you need to bring that shit to about a 3.
It's like, you need to back up because your face is looking real stabby right now. And I like really want to just pull it off your head. So
let's have a beer and just talk about our differences. You're still a fucking asshole. I'm going to stab you in the fucking face.
It's like, can we not? I don't really. No, I do kind of want to punch you, but no. You know, and it's just like, but you know, there's people on the left who do the same fucking thing. You know, and you know,
I think that's why Trump got elected in the first place. You know, there was so much. I was actually kind of surprised, but at the same time, there was so much dirt on Hillary, and then there was so much. I think there was so much of an elitist, smug quality trickling down from some of the higher ups that backed the left. That I think a lot of the average, you know, people were just like, you know what, go fuck yourself. We're going to vote for this guy, Trump. And
yeah,
4 years later, we see the fucking result of that, right? I mean, some people think he's a hero. I'm having a hard time putting that together.
He's a hero to people who felt
wanted to be a hero, I guess. You know?
Well, no, he's a hero to people who felt emboldened to be shitty to other people they don't like. That's all he's a hero to. He made it cool to brutalize and to make fun of the people that normally people would have been like, oh, I'm not going to say that because, you know, it's, you know, not politically correct. Well, now it's cool to make fun of what's not politically correct. And it's like,
two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like fucking,
that's the thing. It goes so extreme either way, where you're either this hippy dippy, just everyone, but really you're a fucking Nazi yourself, or you're on the other end where you're just being an asshole to everybody for no fucking reason, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's just like, oh, we're going to trigger the libs. And it's like, if your main point of doing something is to cause harm to someone you don't like, you're wrong. I don't care what your point is. Like, you were wrong the second your intention was to hurt someone because you don't like them. And it's like, it's, you know, I don't care what your political affiliation is. Like, just like, you know, unless of course they're a Nazi, it's always right to hurt Nazis.
Have you guys seen that amazing little, I don't know if it's called a GIF or to this day, I don't know if it's a GIF or a GIF.
Yeah, who knows?
Man, see, you always have killer shirt. That's a great shirt. Great shirt. Love it. But there's this one where like this Nazi guy is just sitting there, this little wimpy little dude, and he's just like, and he's got the swastika on his arm and shit, and he's just like, and this guy just decks him. It's so badass, man. Yeah.
It's never not funny. It doesn't matter how many times I see it. It's always funny to watch a Nazi get laid out.
Well, because the whole premise of that is hate. Is hating someone else and believing you're superior. And then, like you said a minute ago, I think anybody who thinks that is fucking wrong. Fuck you. You know what I mean? For thinking that. You're missing the point of what it means to be a human being. Vic, I'd love for you to chime in on this because I feel like you have some thoughts on these matters.
Because I'm brown?
Absolutely. I just wanted to see what the Mexican had to say. You got me.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys are on point. But it does go both ways. You know, I've seen, you know, people on the, you know, I don't know what you call them, far left, progressives, whatever. It's always amazing to me to see people justify their actions because of, you know, bad man did this, so that means I can do it too. So I'm going to be just as much of a jerk. So it's just, I think most people, and I think people that we've had on the podcast are kind of in the middle and they kind of see both extremes. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I see from the left, I see it from the right. I'm just a dude that just wants to live my life, not have too much government involvement. I don't like the government running things as much as people would like to think or believe that it's, the government should run this. And I'm like, no, if you've never worked for the government, you don't want that. Yeah. Less government control. Let me do what I want. Leave me alone. Don't try to push stuff on me. Don't tell me how to think. That's
We've talked to a few different libertarians, and I like what you said a few weeks back. I forget who we were talking to, and I think you used the phrase "classic liberal." You know what I mean? Very different than a progressive mindset.
Yeah. Be open to learning new things. Right? Don't close yourself off from experiences. We've had a couple of people on the podcast, like your buddy Italo, right? World traveler. I think the more you get out of your own skin, the more you get out of your own environment and just do some traveling, even if it's to a different state. I mean, it just does a person good. I think Mark Twain said it best, right? The answer to any type of bigotry is travel, or I can't remember what the exact quote is, but it's
real world education. Nothing can substitute real world education.
Real world education, not Ivy League education. You got all these folks with PhDs and, basket weaving or something, and people mistake high level education for wisdom. It's not the case, because I've run into a ton of those people and they're just dumbasses. They can't step out of their own shadow. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, we've got too many people who've never left the town that they live in, and they don't get out of that bubble, where they hear the same things, they hear the same personalities and the same points of view, and they don't know anything different. And it's like, you don't want to be mad at people because they don't know any better, but for fuck's sake, at a certain point, you're responsible to educate yourself. You're responsible to open your mind and to learn empathy for other people's lives. And that's like I think the one of the biggest problems we've had over the last, I'd say like 12 to 20 years is the empathy is dying in our country. And we've become less empathetic as every year goes on. In the last 4 years, it's been horrible.
Yeah.
Nobody has any empathy for anybody else. And it's just like, and that's like the argument I hear all the time from people when I get into debates. It's usually like, it's based in their inability to be empathetic to the person in the position they're complaining about. Like I had a discussion with a guy about, he was really like mad about the homeless problem we have in Austin. And he's like, we got this homeless problem. And I'm like, is there a different problem that the homeless people have other than being homeless? And he's like, well, that we have so many homeless. And I'm like, yeah, we have like so many homeless because we have a shortage of jobs. We have a living wage that's not a living wage. Our cost of living is so high. We have a third of that population are veterans that aren't getting the help they need from our government.
Government healthcare.
Yeah. I'm like, do you even know anything about these people you're talking about? He's like, well, they didn't play by the rules, and that's why they're where they're at. I'm like, that's not, you're suffering from a lack of empathy, my friend. And I invite you to open your mind and try and figure out the stories of some of those people that you're looking at and looking down on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to the point of, I definitely think in terms of the problem with a lot of, government federal level programs that are just mismanaged and
bloated,
horrible mismanagement, horrible, use of fund, all this kind of bullshit, crooked politicians, all the other lobbyist bullshit that goes into something that never just stay simple, right? Yeah. The idea fundamental, but in certain things like healthcare, veterans, yes, these are things that that we need. Those should be things that are funded and run at higher levels. But one thing that I see all the time that is, when we talk about all these things, and I think a lot of times people want some sort of magical solution from some high form of government, but really you see so many things happen at the local level. Like just watching the news yesterday, right, on Thanksgiving, and seeing how many volunteers and how many people were going out on the local community. This had nothing to do with anything other than good people in your local community going out and helping other people, That's where it starts. It all starts about, like you said, man, at a local level with your your next door neighbor, having empathy about and caring for other fucking people, you know? And when you lose sight of that and you just start thinking in terms of like, you know, two battling football teams that are just faceless and life means nothing, and you start looking at it as an actual individual people, like that's when you're really going down the wrong path. And like it's astounding to think that over 250,000 people have died. You know, maybe the numbers or whatever, this and that, we don't know. Look, we're in the midst of a pandemic. One way or another, 250,000 people are dead. To be callous about that, to me, is mind-boggling. You know?
Yeah, no, it's criminal. It's you have to be devoid of any kind of empathy to make short of that. And it's just like, and the argument like, oh, the numbers are inflated and this, that, and the other thing. It's like, okay, I would give that argument weight if it wasn't for the fact that that's 250,000 additional people that are dead above the normal amount of people that we would expect to be dead this year. So it's like, that's 250,000 more people than were dead this time last year. So your argument is gone now. It's no longer there. 2 months in, people were making that argument, but it's like that number kept going up.
Yeah, you can't possibly win that argument, and the fact that there's still people that are arguing that is,
you know, and like, oh, if wearing a mask is a violation of my rights, fuck you. You got to wear fucking shoes and a shirt where you go. Put a fucking mask on. It's not. Nobody's fucking taking your land. Nobody's fucking robbing your car. It's like, you want somebody to violate your fucking rights, come over my fucking house. I'll give you a lesson in you know, in accountability. You know, just fucking cut that shit. You know, just put your fucking mask on or stay the fuck home. You know, like, you don't want to go out. You don't want to go into a business and wear a mask. They don't have to serve you. You know, like, oh, only your rights matter. Their rights don't matter. They don't have the right to you know, refuse a customer that they don't want to serve now because their rights don't matter. Only yours. And, you know, because you're too macho to wear a fucking mask.
Yeah, it seems to be some real confusion with some people in terms of what your actual basic fundamental, you know, rights and freedoms are, as opposed to just being an entitled prick, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's just like, and, you know, and like, you know, things like about going back to empathy, like you see all this fucking, this macho dick waving nonsense where, you know, they're making fun of people wearing their masks in their car, you know, and it's like every little thing you can find to make fun of the people you don't like. You know what? How many times, like when I drive on the road, the day I drive on the highway and I don't see somebody change lanes without using a blinker, you can start talking about people forgetting to take their fucking mask off in a car. You know, it's like, you can't even remember to use your blinker. You can't even remember to yield right away in the left-hand lane, which is one of my pet peeves.
And honestly, like sometimes, like if I'm going somewhere and I have my mask on, right, and then I'm going somewhere else 5 minutes. Fuck it, I'm just gonna leave my goddamn mask on. I don't want to take.
You
and
forget
I've
it's there.
a couple different ones, and I don't want to fucking dick with it and the ponytail and shit. And it's just like, because I'll like put it back. And so if someone wants to look at me and be like, "Look at that fag with a mask," that's your fucking problem, man. Like whatever, dude.
Nerd.
Look at that nerd with a mask.
Half these guys can't remember to zip their fly up after they use a bathroom. You know, like, and they're like, "Oh, you wear a mask." You know, it's like, yeah, I'm
because they want to be ready to whip that dick out.
You know, yeah.
Look at me, I don't wear a mask, you sissy.
I'm a real man. All these women are waiting on me. It's like, no, nobody's waiting on you. You're just a dick. Stop being a dick. You've got one job. Don't be a dick. And if you are a dick, the other job is to apologize for being a dick.
Well, on the other side, you got all the narcs too that are calling people for, like, you know, if you're out exercising, I think the mandate is you don't have to wear a mask, but you know, you go out into a field, you stand around, you take pictures, and people are narking on you because you're not wearing a mask and you're isolated by yourself.
But I mean,
it works both ways. Some people just all they exist to do is tattletale on other people.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the same people who were calling the cops on black families having a barbecue. So you know, it's the same. It's the same fucking person. Yeah. Like, it's just like, there's no escaping them.
Imagine if they saw a black person without a mask. Oh my god!
It's like a fucking National Guard would be called. They'd be trying to call the president.
Trump would be like, "Send them, law and order. Black people having a barbecue.
Law and order. We must nuke them. I didn't get to use the nuke yet. I'm only going to be in this office for another couple hours. We better nuke somebody soon."
It's actually amazing that a Jack Ripper scenario has not occurred in these 4 years, but there's still time.
Yeah, I am. You know what? I can't wait for a couple of years from now when all the stories of the shit that we don't know he did while in the office to come out. Like the shit that people stopped him from doing. I can't wait to hear the stories of the nightmare scenarios that, where his aides and people talked him out of doing absolute fucking crazy bonkers shit. Because I know it happened because he's crazy and bonkers.
Like maybe Twitter. I always like talk shit about, the fact that our president of the United States sitting on the toilet on, tweeting half the time. But maybe that's actually saved us. Like maybe that he's got a team of people that like, holy fuck, he's about to launch some nukes and like, oh, Mr. President, did you see that so-and-so said this about you? And then he fucking like forgets about a world crisis and gets on Twitter because of a reporter.
Hey, Mr. President, this 14-year-old boy in Seattle said this about you. What are you going to do about it? Yeah, because he's basically like a 14-year-old kid. Like that's
very true.
That's how he behaves on Twitter. He's just like, does Susie like me? I like Susie. Oh, she doesn't like me. Let's fucking ruin her parents' lives. Send all my followers. Go dox them.
Well, really, it's like a kind of like a classic bully thing where you're like, you're so insecure and of yourself, I guess, that you're like, anything says anyone negative about you and it's like real personal to you, right? But then you're out there just railing on everyone else, like mercifully, like with no mercy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm astounded at the behavior that we saw out of him, and I expected it, and I was still like, wow.
Yeah, it was
wow.
Well, that's what the thing. Every time you think like he can't do anything dumber or more crazy, he does. Like, I'll be honest, like I really think like if he had just, despite everything, if he had just like been on top of this virus and been like, hey everybody, let's try to like fight this together and take precautions and care about your neighbor. And he had set an example and worn a mask and be pro-mask. If he had done that and still said Operation Warp Speed and said all this encouraging stuff, but just got behind the mask, dude, it's not hard. Okay, that's one thing. We're in a pandemic. We're wearing masks to protect each other. Say like, yeah, it's a good idea. We should all do that. Okay, easy, right? Second thing, when someone, I don't care if you've done it before or not, when someone asks you on national television, whether you think they're trying to get you or whatever, to denounce white supremacy, you say, yes, of course I denounce white supremacy. Any form of racism is wrong and stupid and immoral, et cetera, et cetera. This is not hard. I almost feel like if he just would have done those two things, he'd still be fucking president.
I don't think you're wrong. And I mean, I'd be appalled, but I don't think you're wrong. Like, it
wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
It's that hard.
Hey, Mr. President, could you say Nazis are bad? Well, there's good people on both sides. Like, no, there's no good people on Nazis. We had a war about it. Like, millions of people fucking died. We all decided as a species that Nazis are bad.
I don't know what it is with politicians referring to heinous, criminals and horrible people as folks, but it really bothers me. Like after 9/11 happened and George Bush looks like a goddamn American hero now after Donald Trump. But like, George Bush goes up there and he's like, well, we got some bad folks. I'm like, these are fucking terrorists, dude. They're not folks. Folks are like the people that live next door that stole your barbecue. Well, they're kind of shady folks. No, these are fucking terrorists, man. Donald Trump, there's some good folks. No, motherfucker, they're Nazis. Nazis are not folks. They're fucking Nazis.
And then there's the people who deny that there are Nazis. They're like, there's not really a Nazi problem. I was like, they're literally holding a Nazi flag. I'm a Nazi. Like,
yeah, look at me being a Nazi, but Nazis
got the tattoos.
And the Earth is fucking flat, and the Holocaust was a hoax. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and we're back there again. Like that's where we're at. Like when this all started, the world was flat, and the Holocaust was fake. So was the moon landing. And
all of it. You ever have those moments when you're like, you just think like you do something, you're like, God, I'm so fucking stupid, and then you see those people, and you're like, oh no.
Don't forget the celebrities. They chime in, and they're just idiots. Yeah,
you get like stratosphere levels of like Tom Cruise crazy. You know what I mean?
Well, talking about Nazis, right? So Ron Perlman, Sons of Anarchy dude, right? And various other films and TV. He sent out a tweet Basically, there, ICE, you know, what is it? ICE, right? Just basically sent out a tweet talking about employing disabled veterans, right? So they had a picture of a disabled veteran, you know, just kind of helping out. And basically what this guy's job was child trafficking, right? Trying to stop child traffickers. Mm-hmm. So the dude was all tatted up. He had all these big sleeves and everything. And he had an iron cross, which is the symbol, or basically his unit symbol that he was, you know, that basically his unit had in the Marines, right? So freaking Ron Perlman's over there like, oh, this guy's a freaking Nazi, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up.
I mean,
someone said that to me about Lemmy. They were like, they thought Lemmy was a Nazi because he had all this like World War II paraphernalia. It's like, no, the guy is a collector. There's a difference between being a collector and a Nazi. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a difference between collecting shit and going to a protest, sea-calling, wearing a swastika on armband and waving a Nazi flag. You know, or
total collector.
Yeah. Or also my favorite.
Welcome to the podcast, Chris. Hey, fellow collector.
Yeah, the big smile. You know, but you know, buying your local store out of tiki torches and marching down the street screaming blood and soil. You know, like, just because you're wearing khakis doesn't mean you're not being a fucking Nazi.
I mean, some of those folks are good folks. Come on now.
Maybe they were keeping the mosquitoes away.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them were driving that car that ran that woman over. You know.
Right. The guys that were direct, you know, the guys that were looking at the GPS, those are good folks.
Yeah.
Take a left here.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, but like, if thinking back on all the shit that we've seen in the last few years, and I don't just mean the last 4 years. I mean, like, even when Obama was president, you know, and Obama's not like the best guy ever either. Like, there was shit I didn't like about Obama, you know, for a long time, until his last 2 years when he became no fucks Obama and he was literally just telling people to go fuck themselves. Then I got behind him because I'm like, no, I'm okay with this because he's literally telling people who were hanging an effigy of him from a tree to go fuck themselves. I'm like, I can get, but you know, we started to see like a lot of this, you know, stuff like that, like burning and hanging effigies of Obama and stuff like that by people going, I'm not racist. It's like, yes, you are. Like, you cannot like this dude because you don't like his policies and stuff like that. Like, I get behind that. Like, please do that. You know, he murdered millions of people with drones, like hundreds of thousands, of people in another country with drones. Like, yeah, he's an asshole. But when you hang him from a tree, when you hang an effigy of him from a tree, when you start calling his wife a transvestite, when you start doing all this ugly shit, like talking shit about his kids and all this other stuff, it's ugly. And it was a precursor to, and it just built up as, you know, as the years wore on. And then, you know, Trump started running and he started like working that base.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like we basically have had a wrestler as the president for the past 4 years. And it's just been leading up to this and getting worse. And it's the result, I think, of our reality TV culture, this culture that has happened ever since the fucking Real World, you know, from MTV and the Jerry Springer show. And here we are now with 30 years later, we got a president of the United States that acts like goddamn Hulk Hogan. It's the fucking truth. And I mean, but it's what was crazy to me was whenever the debates were happening and we're all watching and you know, a fly had to land on Pence's head to give us all a nice laugh and you know, like, but that first fucking debate was one of the craziest fucking things any of us have ever seen. It was insane. Trump was so horribly off the fucking rails. And but whatever channel, on some C-SPAN channel, because I'm old now and I'm watching all this C-SPAN shit, like they were playing all these old debates and it was fascinating. I was watching debates from when I was, you know, 10 years old or something late 80s, early 90s, early teen, and like there was like the old Bush, Perot, Clinton and stuff like that. And I was going like, this is amazing. All of our lives, we've always been like, oh, they're so nasty and the mudslinging. And after what has just happened, I was watching those debates like, oh my God, they're so polite and tactful and eloquent. And it was crazy watching it, like how they were actually talking about policies. It was like, this is nuts.
Did you see Biden's first speech after the election, like where he wasn't like recognizing that he wasn't
very
recognizing
good. He's being a good politician.
Yeah, he said all the right things, and we'll see if he actually follows through on any of it. But that's besides the point. I can't. I sat there and I was watching it with a couple of my buddies, and I turned to my buddy and I was just like, I don't really care what he gets done the next 4 years, but the fact that I just heard a leader of this country speak eloquently and in full sentences with above a second grade level, and at no point in time did he talk about himself, and that it speaks volumes to me. And yeah, he's a politician and he knows how to talk like that, but that's the thing, is like that's what I expect from my politicians, is I expect them to know how to address an audience, and without attacking anyone, without talking like being a fucking wrestler. We didn't even get one of the good guy wrestlers. We got like the bad guy wrestler who never wins the belt. Like that's who we had for president, is like a bad guy wrestler. We had like the bad version of bad guy Roddy Piper. Like it wasn't even good guy Roddy Piper, because I'd vote for that motherfucker. Anyway, I'm sorry.
He made some kick-ass movies.
Fucking They Live. Wow, so
That's
relevant.
Right.
So relevant.
John Carpenter. Yeah, no kidding, right? Social media. They Live. Yeah.
But yeah. So here we are at the end of it all together.
I mean, the world's fucked up when I have Chris Farrell on a podcast.
I know. It's bad.
That's the sign of the times. The fucking world's about to end, man. Quartershackle's talking to each other. Oh shit.
Hey, oh wait, I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but wasn't there a rule in place that you and I were not allowed to do interviews together on air anymore? After what we did at that interview, where we did an interview, me and you, at College Station, and we declared a jihad on College Station.
Yeah, I remember that. Like, because back then we were going through all this stuff with Rob and whatever we were doing, and the album and blah de blah, and we did like an interview, and he was just like, okay, like you guys aren't allowed to do interviews anymore. No, yeah, it was true. We were playing there. Yeah, I think that's what I said. To clarify, I didn't actually put a real jihad on College Station, but I'm not that kind of folk, But I think I was saying to the fact that we were going to just destroy, and said, we're going to put a jihad. And there was also another reference. There was something else in that podcast too, and Rob was just like, no more. Dude, we had a series of Quartershackle was a horrific band that had no business ever doing interviews. Something stupid would always come out of someone's mouth, like bad. Remember the one we did? I won't say what it was, but we did one where it was at the studio, and it was after some gig, and everybody came in like hungover and hating life, and it was a video for Craven, right before the album was the single. Remember that?
Yeah.
And I think they did an interview with us too, and I don't think any of us were saying really great professional stuff. Joe was rambling on about. I'm pretty sure Joe was talking about a website about cats that look like Hitler. That was one that got brought up. And then Blaine just blurted out something so random, and we were just like, "This interview's over."
Do you remember Blaine's "I'm gonna shake you like a baby" moment?
No. What?
So, one of the reasons why to this day I love Blaine. Like he's one of my favorite humans. Because in my eyes, Blaine has always been a really sweet person, and I know he hates me a lot. But it's okay. I didn't hear what you said. No, I really can't hear you.
You're on mute.
I'm unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I said I think enough time has passed. Like it's like a 10-year deal. Like, and you just like, okay, after 10 years, you're allowed to stop hating your prior bandmates.
All right. Well, I did run into him actually at a knife show, and he didn't seem like he hated me that much. But uh, he got really mad at Joe, and like we were talking about something in the studio, and this might have been before you were in the band, but like I don't know if you remember how Blaine would get when he'd get very worked up, but he didn't talk a lot, and he'd almost like shake because like he couldn't make words to show the emotions because he's just a really chill dude. Like he just like he doesn't get mad. Like I don't remember ever seeing him mad, but he got really frustrated with Joe, and he's just like, and he's like I just I want to shake you like a baby. And I almost pissed myself and died on the floor because I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't breathe because he meant it. And I could see him struggling with being so angry, but it was so fucking funny.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of those. Well, there was one time when I mean, I could throw you under the bus here, and maybe I will, but there was a time when you came to the studio, and it was just like, even for you, it was so next level. And like you said, you were going through stuff. There was stuff going on, but we were sitting around. It was me and Rob and Blaine. And Blaine, like, and it was like the time was going by. And this was one of the times I think I ended up losing my shit. And then like all of us just went to a bar and drank, minus you, I guess. I don't think Joe was there. And Rob and I went, but Blaine was just like, he just left because he couldn't take it. He was like freaking out. And then you showed up and you were like, where's Blaine? And I was just like, I'm not going to say anything. And then like Rob was like trying to like calmly talk. Well, Blaine went to the bar because, and you're just like, but blah, de blah. And then you made a reference to like not having a clock. And I was just like, ah, it's like, this came out of your mouth. I don't have a clock. And I was like, dude. Yeah.
I have no idea. Concussion. I don't even remember this.
No, but point is Shaky Blaine, like Shaky, he checked out, but this is a new name now, Shaky Blaine. He just checked out right before that happened. I should have just gone to the bar, and I was like, no, I'll sit here. And then, I think was like a combination of like the fact that like I was like, you had like this, you were just like so like, but I don't have a clock. And Rob was like trying to talk to you rationally, and I was just like, just being in the middle of this surrealness. I
wasn't rational though. Like that's the thing.
It wasn't. Like, that's the thing. I was like, I can't. This is driving me insane.
And what's funny is I felt that coming, and I don't know if you guys remember this.
That's why we stopped working together. Like you would come in the studio without us because none of us could really talk to each other for a while.
Well, I felt like I knew I was losing it. Like I knew I was shutting down, and I knew that I had a feeling like I only had a certain amount of time to make sense. And I remember going to the studio and talking to you guys and trying to tell you, listen, I am going through this stuff and I can't do anything but play the fucking drums. I can't handle anything else. I'm shutting down. I just want to come here and play the drums and you guys do what you need to do. I'm sorry, but I can't be anything more than just get behind those drums and then go home. And like, I don't know how it came out or what it looked like to everybody, but because I was just trying to tell you guys that I knew I was checking out, and I knew that like the world wasn't going to make sense to me any moment, and all I could do was play the drums and try to not die. And I always figured, I basically got the feeling that nobody really understood what I was trying to say, and then I just basically increasingly pissed everyone off over the preceding months that followed.
Well, we learned a valuable lesson, I think, in Quartershackle too, is the too many cooks in the kitchen. You know what I mean? And like moving forward, I think it's often a good time where, I mean, sometimes it works. It works for certain bands. It seems like it works for bands like Clutch, but I think a lot of times you need to have one or two people that are kind of spearheading something. The other guys are participating, but not, you know what I mean? And I mean, you ended up checking out into the process with all you had going on and the frustrations. But I think in the beginning of that, you had four really different, very bullheaded guys that were very, passionate about something. And then Rob and I think there was a lot of just unnecessary conflict. I always thought too, it would have just been nice almost to have Quartershackle with a bit of band that could have really done well with someone just being like, all four of you shut the fuck up. We're doing this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that like having those cooks in the kitchen, I think it worked when we were writing in that way where we went in the room and just started jamming.
When I first joined, yeah.
Yeah, like we're great when we just got in the room and we played and just wrote our songs that way, because our songs would fall together a lot of times. You know, we just kind of play. I mean, our sound checks were always fucking genius. Our sound checks were basically we'd show up and just start playing something, you know, and you know we're very good at that. And
no, seriously, that was sometimes we did those freeform jams. It was killer, man.
Yeah, and it was, you know, but then I think, you know, a lot of it, like, you just need to step back and, like, you know, and like that's part of what I was trying to do when we were in the studio. I was just like, I'm just going to step back. I'm just going to play the drums. You know, like our songs are mostly written, and like, just let me know where we're at when I get here, because I'm just going to muck up the works. And I didn't want to do that. And then like I felt like people were getting mad at me because I was trying to get out of the way. You know, and I was just like, I'm just trying to be helpful, you know, and not be in the way.
Well, the good news is, after all these years, none of us are orange. None of us can be held responsible for 250,000 people dying and all kinds of other terrible things. And we're not Nazis. We're not racists. You know, we're humans. We make mistakes. But it's nice. It's been really cool during this pandemic, actually, doing this podcast and just catching up and talking with different people. So it's cool to have you on, man, and catch up and shoot the shit and reminisce about some of the absurdities of our past.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. You know, I'm super happy to be here with you guys, and I was really happy when you asked me to be on. I was just like, I guess he doesn't want me to die. So
well, you know, back to what we're in the group. I think, you know, you were in that group, and we're kind of chatting and said, yeah, man, you should come on the podcast, you know. And I remember right away too. I was like, I bet people are going to watch this episode, because someone right away was just like, oh my gosh, Chris Farrell. I was like, watch, motherfucker, this is going to be our most watched goddamn podcast. So. Anyway, man, we're running kind of behind on this. It's been awesome chatting. So just to wrap up, Fearghal Blades, it is at a .com website.
Fearghal Blades at Facebook, Instagram. Those are really the best places. I have a website, I think. But
Okay, so Facebook, Instagram, best places to find you. And I see you get pretty good engagement, man, on those pages. And season 1, episode 2 of Forged in Fire. For anyone
yes, sir.
Let's check you out on that show. You were the season winner on that. And
well, I won that episode.
You won that episode.
Yeah, every episode has a different.
Chris Farrell won all of Forged in Fire, the entire thing.
That won't piss off anyone.
Every season ever.
Producer.
I'm gonna get nothing but hate mail from all of the other guys who won. They're like, you motherfucker.
It was him and 3 Nazis, and he won. They were good folks, though.
Good folks on all sides.
This is what'll happen. See, this is what happens with everything in media and politics. Like, if anyone listened to this, so I can say anything I want because I'm not famous. But if I was like slightly famous, then someone would be like, I hate that guy. And they'd come in here and they would just grab those sound bites and be like, Nazis are good folks. This has been Skunk Manhattan.
It's okay. I've gotten a lot of hate for you know, my outspoken nature.
Don't say.
of like, don't be an asshole to people, and that has gotten me in trouble. I got in trouble once for saying you should pay artists for their work and stop asking them for free things.
Yeah, well, rightfully so. Good. I mean,
yeah. People got mad at me over that, and they're like, "Well, you know, if you can lose that opportunity," and I'm like, "Bitch, please, what opportunity? You're gonna fucking show me off to your 10 Instagram followers? I'm on somebody's TV."
How many opportunities have I had to play for furniture and a couple of drink tickets? Boy, look at my booming musical career.
It's like, here, let me add that to my talent soup and my what's that called? What do we live on? Oh, exposure bucks. Yeah.
And just keep at it, bro. Another 20, 30, 40, 500 years, you're really gonna.
Yep, we're gonna be there. We're gonna pay rent.
I mean, look how much all that MySpace time paid off.
Although there is some pushback nowadays, people wanting to go back to the MySpace days. They're mad at Facebook.
That sounds so 2020 to me. Everything's just so ass backwards. Sitting here talking to Chris Farrell, people are getting on MySpace. Crazy shit. Well, dude, thanks for hanging with us, man. It's been awesome chatting with you, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me, and I'll hope we'll hang out sometime and not play music or something.
Let's make some blades.
Yeah, come to the shop.
That'd be
we'll
cool.
swing some hammers.
Hell yeah.
I would love to do that. It'd be really cool to actually come out to your shop when we can all get around each other and just do an episode out there.
Yeah.
You want doing
That'd be
the
badass.
Oh, and I teach classes at Pioneer Farms. I should probably mention that because I'm plugging.
Oh, yeah. I actually do think I saw you that night when the Czars played up there. And I went to get a beer, and then I think I seen it, and I told Josh, I was like, I think that might be Chris. And then we walked back over that way, and I didn't see you because you were up there recently when we played, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was up there, and I was doing demonstrations, and then I never got out of my shop, which is usually the case.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Cool, man. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, once again, this has been Skunk Manhattan, Victor Ramos. Our guest has been Chris Farrell. Check out Fearghal Blades, Facebook, Instagram, wherever online. Forged in Fire, blah, 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 blah. Nachos, not Nazis. Remember, kids. They're scum, not folks. Until next time. See ya.
Cheers.
Laters. Thanks.
Stone, a fashioned edge is taken. The gossip has been lost among the noise, and I am shaken. I'm calling out to pose, standing still and still exposed, leering through the battle cry. Dog and night has never tried. Life is taken, the numbers seem to dwindle faster than the serpent's raping. I'm calling out to pose, standing still and still exposed.